581 True Nature Essence, Primordial Chaos Realm Destruction Palm. 581 True Nature Essence, Primordial Chaos Realm Destruction Palm. The battle at Dacheng Pass was a heavy blow to the entire Liang Kingdom. Before this, the Liang Kingdom had only been repelled when they attacked Wu Kingdom's Qinshui Pass. However, they were only repelled that time and did not suffer much. Moreover, the Wu Kingdom was also an overlord-level country and was powerful. From this point of view, the Liang Kingdom and the Wu Kingdom were actually on the same level. If they were only repelled once, it would not cause much damage to the Liang Kingdom. However, the battle at Dacheng Pass was different. Chen Kingdom was just a small country that was struggling at death's door because of its special geographical location. It was extremely weak. It could not be compared to an overlord-level country at all. No citizen of the Liang Kingdom would think that their country's army would suffer a setback at Dacheng Pass. This was impossible. Especially since the one who attacked Dacheng Pass was Chu Feixiao, who came from the Chu family. He was an expert known as Divine General Feixiao. A small Dacheng Pass could definitely be broken with a flick of his finger. However, when the results of the battle at Dacheng Pass returned to the Liang Kingdom, the world was in an uproar. Everyone found it unbelievable. The Liang Kingdom's army had been defeated. Even the commander-in-chief, Chu Feixiao, had been captured and disappeared. A crushing defeat. This was an unprecedented level of defeat, and he had even lost to a small country like the Chen Kingdom. The culprit who caused all of this was Kui Qing, who suddenly appeared at Dacheng Pass. He directly defeated Chu Feixiao, who was the commander, with absolute crushing strength and obtained the victory. This caused Jiang Ping, as the ruler of the Liang Kingdom, to lose all face. As long as he heard the name Kui Qing, he would become incomparably furious, let alone see Kui Qing in person. The moment he discovered the identity of the person in front of him, the power in Jiang Ping's body boiled, and his entire body emitted an incomparably dazzling light. It was as if the light of billions of stars had gathered together. The emperor of the Liang Kingdom turned into a huge ball of light and rushed out of the palace, floating in the sky. A mighty aura swept through the world. The boundless light immediately illuminated the huge territory of the Liang Kingdom. Every citizen of the Liang Kingdom felt this powerful might and saw the dazzling light. The immortal land was much larger than the heaven realm. The territory of the Liang Kingdom alone was more than 100 times larger than the heaven realm, but its essence was higher, the laws and great Tao were more strict, and the space was more stable. However, Jiang Ping's power could instantly envelop this area. It was enough to show how powerful he was. And this was not all of Jiang Ping's strength. Actually, he could still let his power envelop a wider range, but that would touch the land of other countries and might attract the targeting of the other emperors. However, even so, Jiang Ping's sudden display of power was still sensed by the neighboring countries. The emperors of the Wu, Wei, Zheng, and Xin kingdoms all looked over to pay attention to the situation in Liang Kingdom. These were the 4 overlord-level countries closest to the Liang Kingdom. There were often conflicts and friction at the borders, but it was basically the generals of the various countries fighting. There were almost no cases of the emperors personally taking action. After all, the rulers of overlord countries were already paramount true immortal at the 9th true world realm. If they rashly attacked, it was very likely to have a huge impact on the vast land. Therefore, it was really surprising that Jiang Ping, the emperor of the Liang Kingdom, suddenly attacked with all his might. Could it be that the ruler of that country had launched a sneak attack? Or did a paramount true immortal among the immortals launch a surprise attack on the Liang Kingdom? The 4 emperors who were watching the situation in the Liang Kingdom were puzzled. However, the strength Jiang Ping displayed also shocked them. This fellow has become stronger again. This is the huge benefit of the land. Compared to 2 million years ago, his true nature essence has increased by at least 30%. With such a powerful true nature essence, how many immortal bodies has he absorbed and refined in the past 2 million years? At this rate, he'll probably break through in another 10 million years. What amazing power, and it's even pure true nature essence. Jiang Ping is probably about to touch the extreme level of a paramount true immortal. The huge advantage of a large country is too strong. Damn it, If not for him snatching away a large portion of our Zheng kingdom's territory 2 million years ago, how could he have such achievements now? This time, he's fighting an intense battle with someone. Perhaps I can help his enemies and find trouble with him. The four emperors were basically amazed by Jiang Ping's strength, but they did not pay much attention to the enemy who was about to fight Jiang Ping. Even the emperor of the Zheng kingdom only wanted to take this opportunity to bolster Jiang Ping's bad luck. No one thought that Jiang Ping's enemy would win. Jiang Ping was too powerful. As paramount true immortals, the four emperors knew Jiang Ping's current strength very well. He had almost reached the peak of the 9th true world realm. As long as he was still a paramount true immortal, it was unlikely for anyone to defeat Jiang Ping. Only by stepping into the 10th true world realm and completely surpassing a paramount true immortal could one defeat Jiang Ping. However, there were only two existences in the entire immortal land who had surpassed the 9th true world realm. One was the human emperor of the central capital city, and the other was the lord of the immortals of the overseas immortals. Other than that, there was definitely no third person. Therefore, in their understanding, the outcome of this battle was already decided. There was no suspense. In fact, Jiang Ping thought so too. He knew that this Kui Qing was very powerful. He should be a paramount true immortal who was not weak. Although Kui Qing had the battle record of breaking the human emperor bone spear, Jiang Ping knew that the bone spear had long been incomplete and was no longer firm. Even a paramount true immortal could destroy it. Paramount true immortal. In the entire immortal land, there were only a handful of them. However, Xue Ping had already reached the peak of the 9th true world realm. He had never taken a paramount true immortal other than himself seriously. At this moment, Jiang Ping, who had already transformed into a huge ball of light and recklessly displayed his might, stood high in the sky. He looked down at Kui Heng below and said in a low voice, "Rebel, since you're here to court death, I'll fulfill your wish." Before his words could be heard, a huge hand stretched out from the ball of light that seemed to be condensed from billions of stars. Each of the 5 fingers were like rulers of the sky, wrapped in endless Dharma and Tao, condensing into endless dazzling divine light, as if they contained a terrifying power that could crush the entire star sea as they pressed down. Boom. Thank you for reading on my box novel. 582 True Nature Essence, Primordial Chaos Realm Destruction Palm, 2. 582 True Nature Essence, Primordial Chaos Realm Destruction Palm, 2. In an instant, the sky of the immortal land split open, revealing a dark and deep hole and an endless void. This was all caused by the aftershock of this palm. At the same time that this palm pressed down, the entire Liang kingdom fell silent. There was no sound. Even if countless spaces were cracking and countless mountains were collapsing, there was no sound. There was silence. To all the living beings who saw this scene, it was as if the entire world was undergoing a restart. They had to destroy everything first before rebuilding everything. And the hand raised by the emperor, Jiang Ping, was the core that restarted the world. What kind of great power was this? Living beings who had not reached the 7th true world realm could not even understand the power of this level. They could only feel that it was powerful, incomparably powerful. Especially in the palm of the huge hand, there was only a grey mass. There was no space, no matter, and even the great Tao laws had been destroyed, turning it into a chaotic state. This scene made countless living beings in the immortal land feel suffocated. The extreme shock made their souls tremble and they could not move at all. They could only stand on the spot and look at the sky in a daze. It's the primordial chaos realm destruction palm. An overlord who was looking at the battle from afar exclaimed. He had clearly recognized Jiang Ping's move and was also shocked by its power. The other overlords who were watching were also very shocked. They secretly increased their estimate of Jiang Ping's strength. It was both envy and jealousy. As for the emperor of the Zheng kingdom who had wanted to take the opportunity to find trouble with Jiang Ping, he directly gave up on his previous plan. Jiang Ping was too strong. He was so powerful that even these overlords felt their hearts palpitate. And it was naturally impossible for such a huge commotion not to be noticed by the central capital. The human emperor, who was originally watching the scene in the heaven prying map with Tai Hong, suddenly changed his expression. He frowned and looked in the direction of the Liang kingdom, then looked at the scene displayed on the heaven-prying map. His expression immediately became extremely ugly. How is this possible? The human emperor looked at the heaven-prying map in surprise. This is a supreme treasure of the immortal domains. Even a 10th true world realm expert can't hide from it. At this moment, the heaven-prying map was still displaying the scene of Kui Heng touring the mountains and waters. Even the Liang kingdom seemed calm and composed, and there was no change from before. Clearly, this was impossible. The huge power of Jiang Ping's attack had already been sensed by the human emperor. The Liang kingdom must have undergone a tremendous change. This Kui Qing actually has such ability. Tai Hong also looked at the heaven-prying map in extreme shock and said in shock, "How did he do it? How is this possible? What happened has already happened. It's useless to guess." The human emperor looked at the heaven-prying map and thought for a moment before saying in a low voice, "Mr. Tai Hong, go and get the treasure left behind by Mr. Juntian. This person must not be left alive." In a border city pass of the Liang kingdom, Chu Han, who had come here not long ago to investigate the mysteries of the land, was looking at the sky. He looked at the huge palm that slapped down from the sky and his gaze was almost dull. The terrifying power contained in it made his scalp tingle. Primordial Chaos Realm Destruction Palm. This is one of the 3 primordial palms that the human emperor taught to the ancestor of the Liang kingdom. It was actually cultivated to such a terrifying level. Can Exalted Immortal really deal with such terrifying power? Although Chu Han already had a certain level of understanding of Kui Heng's strength, he was only at the 7th true world realm after all. It was very difficult for him to determine how strong Kui Heng was. At this moment, when he saw the terrifying power displayed by Jiang Ping, he immediately had such worries. Could Exalted Immortal Kui have died just like that? Of course, Kui Heng would not die. In fact, be it the aura pressure released by Jiang Ping from the beginning or the primordial Chaos Realm Destruction Palm, they did not cause much of a stir in his heart. He could even be said to be completely calm. This person was strong, but that was all. Facing this terrifying hand that seemed to be able to destroy the Star Sea and restart the world, Kui Heng's expression was as calm as water. He slowly raised his right hand and gently grabbed at the sky. His movements were not fast, but they were steady. Boom! At this moment, an earth-shattering bang suddenly rang out, making one feel as if the entire world was shaking violently, as if it was about to destroy the world. Could it be that the huge hand had already hit its target and the person who was going against the emperor of the Liang kingdom, Jiang Ping, had been killed? Many people had such thoughts. However, they quickly realized that something was wrong. It did not seem to be as they had guessed. The primordial Chaos Realm Destruction Palm that stretched out from the huge ball of light with boundless power actually stopped in midair, as if it was blocked by some invisible barrier and could not continue slapping down. The endless Dharma and Tao divine light wrapped around his 5 fingers bloomed like sharp blades, instantly cutting billions of kilometers of space into countless pieces. The chaos in the palm also began to distort and change crazily. Sometimes, it took the form of a small world, and sometimes, it turned into fragments of space and matter. In short, the incomparably powerful palm attack stopped abruptly in midair. And the cause of all of this was only because Kui Heng raised his right hand and gently raised it. He did not use any dharmic powers at all. He relied on the strength of his body to easily withstand Jiang Ping's palm strike. Moreover, his control of strength was extremely precise, exactly the same as the power of the huge palm. This situation was naturally noticed by the overlords who were watching the battle from afar. However, no one exclaimed. Everyone was stunned. As paramount true immortals of the 9th true world realm, they trusted their perception completely. This was definitely not an illusion. But this was too unreal. He did not use any nomological power and relied on his body to withstand Jiang Ping's primordial Chaos Realm Destruction Palm. How could such a thing happen? Was there such a strong body in this world? Unbelievable. What kind of monster was this? A humanoid ferocious beast. However, it was said that it was impossible for a true pure-blooded ferocious beast to transform into a human. Jiang Ping, who had transformed into a ball of light, was even more shocked. As the person who had really fought Kui Heng, he knew better than anyone how terrifying the obstruction force he had just encountered was. That palm that did not look magical at all, nor was it intertwined with any great Tao laws, actually contained power dozens of times stronger than his primordial Chaos Realm destruction palm. This was a feeling he had never felt before, and it was also a feeling he had never imagined. Who is this fellow? How can he have such a powerful body? Jiang Ping was shocked, but he did not panic. As a true immortal who had already reached the peak 9th True World Realm, his techniques and strength were far from what he had just displayed. Then, he linked his strength with the vast land of the Liang Kingdom. At the same time, layers of void suddenly appeared behind Jiang Ping. They were all complete worlds, as if the myriad worlds had gathered. The power of these worlds was all augmented on his body, instantly increasing his power greatly. His huge light ball state also changed, and soon, he became a giant covered in light. He was high and mighty, looking down on all living beings. The vast immortal land is one with me. Your death has arrived. Thank you for reading on my box novel. 583 Supreme True Immortal Body, Impregnable Soul. 583 Supreme True Immortal Body, Impregnable Soul. In the sky above the capital of the Liang Kingdom, Jiang Ping, who had already transformed into a giant, stood proudly. His entire body was enveloped in endless light, and his face had already become blurry. However, his entire body emitted an incomparably holy aura, causing people to want to worship him. Behind Jiang Ping, a myriad of lights and shadows kept flickering. Every time they flickered, they released a huge amount of the power of the great Tao laws. Then, the power of laws transformed into countless streams of light that fused into the light that enveloped his entire body. This made Jiang Ping stronger every moment, as if there was no limit at all. It was as if as long as there was enough time, he could become infinitely stronger. Return to true essence, supreme true immortal body. An overlord who was watching the battle exclaimed and looked in the direction of the Liang Kingdom in extreme shock. He could not help but sigh in his heart. From today onwards, the Liang Kingdom is the true #1 overlord. No one is strong enough to compete with it. If what Jiang Ping had displayed earlier could only be said to be at the peak of the 9th True World Realm, then what he had displayed now was the peak 9th True World Realm. A similar level of strength could be temporarily reached through some special secret techniques, or with the help of divine weapons and secret treasures. Some special martial techniques could also allow people to have strength that far exceeded the normal level of their realm. However, it was different for the extremes. This was a true cultivation realm. Only by truly cultivating to this level could one possess such characteristics. For Jiang Ping to be able to manifest a supreme true immortal body meant that he had already accumulated enough true nature essence. As long as he found a suitable opportunity, he could sublimate to the extreme, break through the current shackles, and step into the 10th True World Realm. Other than the human emperor, he would be the only human to step into the 10th True World Realm. He was also the strongest human in the current world other than the human emperor. Even now, Jiang Ping's strength far exceeds that of an ordinary 9th True World Realm cultivator. As soon as the supreme true immortal body appeared, his strength would increase greatly. No one below the 10th True World Realm was his match. The person who made an enemy of him would definitely die. In the central capital imperial city, Tai Hong had already taken out a wooden box made of purple wood from the treasure vault and placed it in front of the human emperor. At this moment, he suddenly sensed the change in the direction of the Liang Kingdom. His face immediately revealed a bewildered expression as he said in shock, This is a supreme true immortal body. Jiang Ping is going to break through to the 10th realm? Yes. The human emperor nodded and said in a low voice, For so many years, he has used the vast land of the Liang Kingdom as the foundation to communicate with the worlds formed by other immortal lands and constantly absorbed and refined his peers. At this moment, he has already perfected the accumulation of the true nature essence, so he has naturally reached the realm where he can condense a supreme true immortal body. When the time is right, he will be able to break through. This Jiang Ping is indeed powerful. Tai Hong could not help but praise. To be able to cultivate to such a realm at the peak of the 9th True World Realm, he can be proud of himself. Yes, he can indeed be called a genius. His light is shining bright. The human emperor nodded slightly, but then he sighed. Unfortunately, his brilliance ends here. That's right. No matter how strong he is, he's only at the 9th realm. Taihong also looked in the direction of the Liang kingdom and frowned. Where did this Kui Qing come from? No matter where he comes from, he has to die, the human emperor said in a low voice. At the same time, he picked up the box made of purple wood and slowly opened it. Die! Jiang Ping shouted sternly, and his voice instantly spread throughout the world. After revealing his supreme true immortal body, he did not stop at all and directly attacked Kui Heng. His killing intent was extremely strong, almost condensing into a physical form. This time, he closed his fingers like a saber and slashed down with his huge palm. However, this time, Jiang Ping's palm was only enveloped in the most ordinary clear light. There was nothing special about it, as if it was just an ordinary palm move. Even the great Tao laws of the world did not appear. Everything was calm. But the more this was the case, the more terrifying this move was. This meant that all the power was condensed in this palm. It did not leak out at all, so there was naturally no aftershock. The speed of the palm chop was extremely fast. The moment it slashed down, it had already arrived above Kui Heng. At this moment, the power contained in the palm finally erupted. Boom! A huge crack appeared in the world, as if the entire world had been split into two and was about to fall into final destruction. At the same time, billions of lights erupted from this palm. The power condensed by these billions of lights was far stronger than the previous primordial chaos realm destruction palm. Richer and stronger power of the great Tao laws erupted. Wherever the palm passed, all matter and space were crushed, as if it could cut everything into nothingness. Such powerful might could be said to be world-shaking, making everyone who was paying attention to this battle feel their scalps tingle. This is the power of a supreme true immortal body. This is the power of fusing with the immortal land. It's too powerful. A person who was watching this battle from afar was amazed and even felt a trace of fear in his heart. The other overlords fell silent. Jiang Ping's strength made them realize their frailty and they began to worry about their own safety. Thank you for reading on my box novel. 584 Supreme True Immortal Body, Impregnable Soul. 584 Supreme True Immortal Body, Impregnable Soul. After all, this emperor of the Liang kingdom liked to attack other cities and territories the most. If Jiang Ping won this battle, his strength would definitely increase again. Even if he did not directly break through to the 10th True World realm, his strength would still increase. At that time, who would be able to resist the might of the Liang kingdom? No one felt that Kui Heng, who was facing Jiang Ping, could win. No one even thought that he would survive. Jiang Ping was too powerful. But at this moment, Kui Heng laughed. Petty tricks. Showing off his proficiency with the axe before Lu Ban, the master carpenter. His voice was not loud, but it was incomparably clear. It was also spread by a strange force, allowing everyone who was paying attention to this battle to hear his words. Although the people of this immortal land did not know the story behind this sentence and did not understand the meaning, they could understand his mocking and disdainful tone. He actually dared to mock his opponent. This guy was already at death's door. This was the reaction of most people. Jiang Ping, who was attacking Kui Heng, could not help but frown. He was inexplicably flustered. However, he quickly suppressed this distracting thought. The power of the supreme true immortal body was activated with all his might again, and the power in his palm became stronger. At this moment, the palm had completely transformed into a huge saber. It was like a divine weapon that could split the world apart as it slashed towards Kui Heng. However, as Kui Heng raised his right hand again, the attack of the huge saber stopped abruptly. Just like the primordial Chaos Realm destruction palm from before, it was frozen in the air. However, Kui Heng's counterattack this time was especially powerful. While blocking this giant saber, he also released a trace of dharmic powers to attack it. In an instant, a terrifying power that was like hundreds of billions of stars gathered surged out and shattered the giant saber. The essence of this giant saber was Jiang Ping's palm. Therefore, At the same time that the giant saber was shattered, Jiang Ping's palm was directly crushed into powder. Moreover, it was sealed with a strange force and could not recover no matter what, becoming an irreversible injury. However, this kind of damage was not the entirety of that trace of dharmic powers. Just as Jiang Ping realized that his palm had been destroyed, that trace of dharmic powers had already spread from his destroyed palm to his arm. It was still shattered too. In the blink of an eye, Jiang Ping realized that his supreme true immortal body had already shattered into millions of pieces at some point and could no longer gather any power. Boom! At the same time that Jiang Ping realized that his supreme true immortal body had shattered, the countless cracks on his body bloomed with an extremely dazzling light. His body exploded. Countless lights bloomed on Jiang Ping's body, and the lights and shadows from different immortal lands scattered. In the light and shadows of these immortal lands, figures with auras very similar to Jiang Ping could be vaguely seen. These figures seemed to have some strange connection with Jiang Ping. A moment later, the incomparably dazzling light gradually retreated. Jiang Ping's supreme true immortal body had already completely collapsed. The lights and shadows of the immortal lands that were originally floating behind him also disappeared. His entire body became extremely weak, and he could not even float in the air anymore and fell down from 100,000 feet in the sky. Bang! Countless smoke and dust rose like a mushroom cloud, and the ground rippled from the impact, spreading in all directions, as if a meteor had fallen from the sky. Dust filled the air, and Jiang Ping's figure could not be seen at all. However, everyone knew that he should be lying motionless in the deep pit he had smashed out. At this moment, everyone who was paying attention to this battle had a feeling of disbelief. Their mouths were wide open, and they were extremely shocked. Jiang Ping's supreme true immortal body was actually shattered so easily. What kind of monster was this? When did such a monster appear in the world? While many people were shocked, more people were terrified by this. The strength Kui Heng displayed now had completely exceeded the scope of their understanding. What was most unbelievable was that when he destroyed the supreme true immortal body, he appeared very relaxed, as if he did not use any strength. This was too terrifying. Even the paramount true immortal of the ninth true world realm could not understand what level this strength was. It was even more impossible to guess what realm Kui Heng had reached. It was too ridiculous. Could this be a 10th realm expert who had lived in seclusion for thousands of years and had only reappeared now? At this moment, the higher-ups of the entire immortal land had fallen into a nearly crazy state because of Kui Heng's performance. On the other hand, Kui Heng was calm in his heart. After all, to him, the strength he had just used might not even be enough for him to warm up. It was too easy. Jiang Ping was completely defeated without using much strength. The difficulty was basically equivalent to crushing an ant. However, Kui Heng did not kill Jiang Ping. He only destroyed his supreme true immortal body. Then, he walked to the deep pit not far ahead and stood at the edge of the pit. He looked at Jiang Ping, who was lying at the bottom of the pit, and chuckled. "Can you hide from me by lying down like this?" Jiang Ping was still motionless. He lay there without any reaction, as if he did not want to communicate with Kui Heng at all. Kui Heng fell silent when he saw this, but there was still a faint smile on his face. He persuaded again, "Come out now and answer some of my questions, okay? You can just kill me." Jiang Ping finally spoke, but he looked completely uncooperative as he said indifferently, "I won't answer any of your questions." "Is that so? It saves me some trouble." Kui Heng shook his head when he heard this. With a thought, Jiang Ping, who was originally lying at the bottom of the pit, was moved in front of him. He smiled and said, "Do you want me to search your soul?" "Soul search? Ridiculous." Jiang Ping sneered. He seemed to have something else to rely on and was certain that Kui Heng would not be able to successfully search his soul. "Heh." Kui Heng shook his head and laughed. His eyes immediately lit up with purple gold light. The power of his essence soul instantly surged into Jiang Ping's Niwen Palace's sea of consciousness, preparing to flip through the memories inside. But at this moment, something suddenly changed in Jiang Ping's Niwen Palace. Countless waves rose in the originally empty sea of consciousness of the Niwen Palace. There were actually tens of millions of identical human-shaped lights and shadows condensed. Every one of them was real and had Jiang Ping's aura. Facing Kui Heng, these human-shaped figures opened their eyes and stared at him. Then, at the same time, they spoke and sneered with a mocking expression. Once the supreme true immortal body is formed, the soul can't be injured. There's no possibility of it being searched. Moreover, I have tens of millions of true souls here. Every one of them is the real me. Even my soul can't be injured. You actually want to search the soul of a paramount true immortal? What a joke. He was extremely confident that Kui Heng would not be able to successfully search his soul. This came from his understanding of his cultivation realm. Is that so? Kui Heng laughed when he heard that. Although such soul characteristics were profound, in the eyes of soul formation cultivators who had refined their essence soul, they were still incomparably crude and nothing special. Then, the power of his essence soul swept out and instantly enveloped the tens of millions of soul shadows. He easily broke through the so-called impregnable defense. Then, he began to flip through the memories. Kui Heng first flipped through the memories about the cultivation method of the ninth true world realm. Previously, when Jiang Ping manifested the light and shadow of the immortal land and talked about the parallel bodies, it might have involved the deep mysteries of the immortal land. Of course, he also looked for Hong Fugue's whereabouts. One of the places Hong Fugue was going to was the capital of the Liang Kingdom. Thank you for reading on my box novel. 585 Immortal Land Harmony, Memory of Hongwu. 585 Immortal Land Harmony, Memory of Hongwu. Jiang Ping's memories were incomparably vast, especially after fusing the so-called Immortal Land Harmony body. It could be said to be endless. Under normal circumstances, it would definitely be extremely difficult to find relatively important information in such a vast ocean of memory. Even if he broke through that layer of invulnerable defense, it was very likely that the soul searcher would lose himself in this sea of memories that was as vast as the universe. However, to Kui Heng, this problem did not exist. As a late-stage soul formation cultivator, his essence soul was extremely powerful, and the power of his divine sense could even mobilize all the power in a star sea. No matter how strong Jiang Ping's soul was, it was impossible for it to resist his soul search. Due to the current persona of Kui Qing, Kui Heng did not screen through this huge memory when he searched his soul. He directly pulled out the relevant memories. This would directly cause the already extremely huge amount of memory information to become even more chaotic. Although this could save him a lot of time and effort in sorting out the types of memories, it would also increase the difficulty of successfully searching the soul. However, Kui Heng did not care about this. It was just searching for the soul of a ninth true world realm cultivator. No matter what he did, it was impossible for him to fail. It was better to be straightforward, directly saving him some time. At this moment, Jiang Ping's memories had already turned into countless lights and shadows. They gathered together and were being casually flipped through by Kui Heng's soul. All the information contained in it would be read by Kui Heng in an instant. Jiang Ping would not have any secrets in front of Kui Heng. During this process, Kui Heng realized that Jiang Ping's memory actually contained the memories of many other worlds. The owner of these memories was not called Jiang Ping, nor were they the ruler of the Liang Kingdom in this immortal land. They were not even from this immortal land. They lived in different worlds and had their own independent lives, memories, and identities. But now, they had all fused into Jiang Ping's memories. There was only one identity left. Jiang Ping's counterpart. The so-called harmony body referred to people who cultivated the same laws as Jiang Ping in other immortal lands. As long as he refined these other immortal lands, he could make his immortal domain laws more complete, and naturally, his cultivation would become stronger. This was the core cultivation method of a paramount true immortal at the ninth true world realm. So this is what it means to gather the bodies of the immortal lands and fuse them into one to refine a supreme true immortal body, Kui Heng muttered in understanding. At the same time, he understood why the ninth true world realm experts cultivated like this. All of this stemmed from the method to become a true immortal, which was the method to step into the seventh true world realm. It was to fuse with the unique longevity energy of the immortal domains, allowing one to sublimate to the extreme and live a long life. And the longevity chi was essentially the laws of the immortal domains. Generally speaking, only by entering the immortal domains or creating it through some special mixed-blood ferocious beast abilities could one obtain the laws of the immortal domains and use them to become a true immortal. Then, as long as he continuously accumulated the laws of the immortal domains, he could step into the ninth true world realm and refine a supreme true immortal body, becoming a paramount true immortal. However, later on, when the immortal domains shattered, mixed-blood ferocious beasts that could create longevity chi became extremely rare. They were almost legendary existences. This cut off the normal path to fuse with the laws of the immortal domains. Fortunately, the fragments of the immortal domains formed immortal lands. These immortal land worlds also contained scattered immortal domain laws. Although it could not compare to the original complete immortal domain laws, if the immortal domain fragments that formed the immortal lands were large enough, it would be enough for a seventh true world realm cultivator to break through to the eighth true world realm and become a true immortal. This immortal land clearly operated like this. However, the immortal domain fragments were only fragments in the end. The laws of the immortal domains here were not complete. Even if one could cultivate to the eighth true world realm like this, they could not reach the ninth true world realm. This required perfecting the scattered and incomplete immortal domain laws. The method was to absorb and refine the bodies of cultivators in other immortal lands. As the source of every immortal land world came from a fragment of an immortal domain, as long as the fragments that formed the immortal land came from the same immortal domain, the origin of the great Tao laws contained in them would be the same. However, the size of the immortal domain fragments was different, so the immortal land world formed was naturally different. The larger the immortal land, the more complete the laws of the immortal domains were, and the higher the essence. One could sense low-level immortal lands of the same origin and even directly affect the laws and living beings of those immortal lands. If they wanted to do this, they had to control the land in the current immortal land. That was because every piece of land actually corresponded to a certain number of immortal lands of the same origin. Only by controlling the land here could one have the qualifications to sense or even explore other immortal lands. After sensing these immortal lands, one could find an equivalent body that was similar to or identical to the laws they cultivated. Then, as long as they killed and refined that body, they could condense the so-called true nature essence. After fusing the true nature essence into his body, the immortal domain laws in his body would become more complete, and his cultivation would also obtain an incomparably obvious increase. As long as he absorbed and refined enough bodies, the amount of true nature essence he could fuse would also increase. In this way, the originally scattered laws of the immortal domains would become complete and strengthened, allowing cultivators to break through the shackles of their cultivation realm and step into the ninth true world realm. Thank you for reading on my box novel. 586 Immortal Land Harmony, Memory of Hongwu, 2. 586 Immortal Land Harmony, Memory of Hongwu, 2. After reaching the ninth true world realm, one also had to constantly strengthen the laws of the immortal domain. Therefore, a paramount true immortal still had to find his counterpart in the other immortal lands and refine it into true nature essence before using it to increase the nomological power of the immortal domain. Simply put, the cultivation method from the eighth true world realm expert was based on killing countless same bodies. The harmony body was not the projection of these paramount true immortal or their scattered souls. They were all independent people with their own thoughts and lives. The reason why they became harmony bodies was only because the laws they cultivated were a little special. They were coincidentally the same or similar to a certain paramount true immortal. Actually, this was not much different from killing people and cultivating. Every paramount true immortal, or even an expert who had reached the extreme of the true immortal realm, must have already killed countless people. Is there really no problem with such a cultivation method? Kui Heng frowned and thought to himself, I feel that this method relies too much on external elements. Moreover, it's not a good path. As a late-stage soul formation cultivator who had deep interactions with the world, he almost instinctively sensed the strangeness of this cultivation method. However, this was not particularly important information to Kui Heng. He wanted to understand the situation of this world through Jiang Ping, as well as the reason for fighting for land and the meaning of things like the true nature essence. Now that he had achieved these goals, Kui Heng began to read the information about Hong Fugui. Previously, he had learned from Wu country's Qingshui Pass that Hong Fugui planned to go to 3 places. They were the capital of the Liang Kingdom, Taichung County of the Lu Kingdom, and the imperial city of the central capital. Although he did not know why Hong Fugui had gone to these 3 places, since Hong Fugui had come to the capital of the Liang Kingdom, Jiang Ping, as the emperor of the Liang Kingdom, might have had some impression of him. Kui Heng's divine sense was extremely powerful, and he quickly found traces of Hong Fugui in Jiang Ping's huge memories. In Jiang Ping's memory, 200 years ago, a handsome middle-aged man with a calm temperament found his way to the capital of the Liang Kingdom. This person directly revealed his identity. He was the general who had just repelled the Liang Kingdom's siege army. Hongwu. That ragged child back then has grown to this extent. Kui Heng could not help but sigh with emotion. This was the first time he had seen Hong Fugui since he left the beginner's space. The current Hong Fugui was no longer as poor as before. After all, in the past 2,000 years, his experiences could definitely be considered a legend. Jiang Ping's impression of Hong Fugui was that he was calm and mysterious. This paramount true immortal at the 9th true world realm actually did not dare to really attack Hong Fugui, who was only at the 5th true world realm. At that time, Hong Fugui seemed to have some special treasure on him that even Jiang Ping was afraid of. Hong Fugui came to the capital of Liang Kingdom and revealed his identity before meeting Jiang Ping. However, he only asked him a question before leaving. This question was, "Have you ever thought that you might be the counterpart body of other people?" Jiang Ping could not answer this question. Even after Hong Fugui left, he had been in seclusion for a period of time because of this question. It was to adjust his mentality. It was true that this immortal land was very huge. Within the known range, there was no immortal land that could compare to this world. However, this did not mean that this immortal land must be of the highest essence. If there was a world with a higher essence than this immortal land, then no matter how many identical bodies he absorbed and refined to form his supreme true immortal body, he would only be benefiting others. This possibility had always existed, but in the past, everyone tacitly ignored it and gradually forgot about it. Suddenly, Hong Fugui pointed it out, making Jiang Ping a little flustered. It was precisely this experience that left an extremely deep impression on him. Unfortunately, when Hong Fugui left, he did not tell Jiang Ping where he was going, nor did he tell him what he was going to do. However, Jiang Ping felt that Hong Fugui seemed to be looking for something. At this point, Kui Heng had already finished reading through Jiang Ping's memories about Hong Fugui. Although he could not determine Hong Fugui's whereabouts, he had some understanding of Hong Fugui's status. 200 years ago, Hong Fugui should have had a treasure that surpassed the 9th true world realm. At the same time, he might be looking for something. Moreover, he had a certain level of sympathy for the living beings of the other immortal lands. Although there were still many mysteries, he could at least confirm that he was safe. At this moment, Jiang Ping, who had left the soul-searching state, had already recovered his senses. He looked at Kui Heng in extreme fear and said in shock, "Who are you? You can actually search my soul?" Jiang Ping's words were earth-shattering, immediately stunning everyone who was paying attention to the situation here. Whether it was the true immortals or the paramount true immortal, their eyes widened in extreme fear. Soul search. Kui Qing could actually search Jiang Ping's soul. How is this possible? The soul of a paramount true immortal could not be injured. This was something everyone knew. Even experts who had surpassed the 9th true world realm could not break through this defense. Therefore, in everyone's understanding, as long as one reached the level of a paramount true immortal, it was absolutely impossible for their soul to be searched, nor could their soul be destroyed. But now, a terrifying figure who could search the soul of a paramount true immortal had actually appeared. This meant that this person could break through the indestructible soul characteristics of a paramount true immortal. In this way, what he could do was probably not limited to only searching the soul, but also directly destroying the soul of a paramount true immortal. After realizing this, All the paramount true immortals in the immortal land erupted with killing intent towards this Kui Ching. This person had to die. As long as this person was still alive, there would be no absolute safety. All the paramount true immortals would not be able to live in peace. However, Kui Ching's strength was so powerful that even Jiang Ping, who had reached the peak paramount true immortal realm, was easily defeated by him. How could they deal with him? At the same time, Kui Heng also felt the killing intent from all directions, but he was not angry at all. Instead, he was very happy. The identity of Kui Ching became much more real, and his cultivation increased. Moreover, it seemed that because many of the people paying attention here were true immortals and paramount true immortals, the feedback was very huge. The identity of Kui Ching had not appeared for long, but it was already almost completely solidified. This also allowed Kui Heng to understand that it actually did not take long for a fake identity to leave a deep mark in a place and be deeply remembered. He only needed to do something big enough and leave a huge impact. This persona is about to be completed. Next, I have to create another fake persona. Kui Heng began to think. But at this moment, a power fluctuation suddenly interrupted his thoughts. Boom! A golden hole appeared in the sky without warning. An incomparably terrifying pressure swept out from it and gathered on Kui Heng. As soon as this pressure appeared, everyone who was paying attention exclaimed, "Human Emperor! It's the Human Emperor! The Human Emperor has attacked. Last time, it was just a test. Is he going to attack for real this time? If the Human Emperor attacks, he will definitely be able to kill this person." At the same time that the sky above the capital of Liang Kingdom was opened by the Human Emperor. In the vast sea far away from the ground, a ray of light suddenly bloomed in the air and a low voice came from it. "How many years has it been? The supreme treasure of our immortal race has finally reappeared. Thank you for reading on my box novel. 587 Immortal Treasure and the Lord of the Immortals. 587 Immortal Treasure and the Lord of the Immortals. The sky opened, and endless pressure descended. Under the gazes of countless experts, a huge blood-colored flag flew out of the hole and emitted an incomparably dazzling light. It was actually the divine light condensed from the laws of the immortal domains. This scene stunned all the experts who were paying attention. They had never seen such dense immortal domain laws, let alone such a powerful treasure. Even the paramount true immortal of the Overlord Kingdoms did not recognize this flag. They did not know what level of treasure it was or where it came from. It was too mysterious. However, some extremely ancient experts and a few overlords who had existed for a long time remembered what this was. Blood God Immortal Court Flag. It's a supreme treasure held by the Lord of the Immortals back then. It's actually in the hands of the Human Emperor. Legend has it that once this flag is unfurled, 100,000 divine soldiers will descend. They can even form a world-shaking array. Its power is immeasurable. Looks like the Human Emperor also knows that this person is extremely dangerous. We have to eliminate him immediately. We can't let him live. Everyone discussed animatedly and became excited. The power of the Blood God Immortal Court Flag was extremely terrifying. Legend has it that a long time ago, in the battle between the humans and the immortals, the Lord of the Immortals had used this supreme treasure to kill countless human experts. If not for the fact that this immortal race supreme treasure had mysteriously disappeared and the immortals had lost their greatest reliance, it was unknown who would have won that battle. They did not expect that after 10,000 years, this immortal race supreme treasure would actually appear in the hands of the Human Emperor. It was really beyond everyone's expectations. How did this immortal treasure fall into the hands of the Human Emperor? Doubts appeared in the hearts of many experts. However, this was clearly not the time to dwell on this problem. More people's attention was still focused on Kui Heng. The pressure Kui Ching gave them was too great. Even a paramount true immortal was not his match. He could even ignore the impregnable soul of a paramount true immortal and search his soul. Such methods terrified many experts in the immortal land. However, even if this person's power was absolute, it would be difficult for him to resist this legendary immortal treasure. After all, this was a supreme treasure from the complete immortal domain. Its essence was stronger than the human emperor or the lord of the immortals. It was very likely that it had already reached the peak of the true world realm. It must be able to kill this Kui Qing. Hence, under the expectant gazes of many experts, the blood god immortal court flag unfolded and a blood-colored rainbow enveloped the entire sky. Dense figures could be vaguely seen among them. In the next moment, 100,000 figures walked out of the bloodlight. They stood proudly in the sky. They were all wearing armor and holding weapons. They stepped on blood-colored clouds, and their auras were all connected. It was as if a peerless expert had descended and wanted to flatten the entire world. Some ancient experts could not help but exclaim when they saw this. 100,000 divine blood soldiers. It's actually the 100,000 divine blood soldiers. I actually lived to see this terrifying power again. The legendary 100,000 divine blood soldiers. This is said to be one of the strongest effects of the blood god immortal court flag. No one can survive against it. Kui Qing is finished. Once the 100,000 divine blood soldiers are unleashed, he will definitely die. Most of these ancient experts had experienced that battle between the humans and the immortals. They had even seen countless experts die under this immortal supreme treasure with their own eyes. Therefore, they knew very well how powerful the blood god immortal court flag was. Indeed, at that time, be it the humans or the immortals, neither of them had surpassed the 9th true world realm. However, the blood god immortal court flag still left a deep impression on these experts, causing them to never forget the power that swept through everything. Moreover, the blood god immortal court flag was a supreme treasure left behind from the time of the complete immortal domains. The battle back then did not completely stimulate its power. Now that it was activated by the human emperor who had already surpassed the 9th true world realm, the power displayed by this immortal supreme treasure must far exceed the past. It was world-shaking and invincible. Especially after they saw the 100,000 divine blood soldiers again, they were even more certain of this view. This was because the current 100,000 divine blood soldiers were countless times stronger than when the humans and immortals fought a long time ago. No one could withstand such power, absolutely no one. The 100,000 divine blood soldiers were high and mighty as they looked down at Kui Heng. An incomparably huge pressure poured down, causing the void in all directions to freeze. This was a power that had completely surpassed the 9th true world realm and contained the complete laws of the immortal domain. It was as if all matter, space, and laws were suppressed under the gaze of the 100,000 divine blood soldiers. It was as if no power could escape their gaze, let alone resist them. The human emperor was very satisfied with this effect. In the central capital city, he looked into the distance. The power in his body was connected to the blood god immortal court flag. He felt the boundless power on it and was incomparably happy. As long as I have this treasure, I won't even be afraid of 11th true world realm experts. The human emperor thought to himself, I really don't know how Mr. Juntian obtained this immortal supreme treasure and why he left it here. Thinking of this, he could not help but feel that it was a pity. Such a powerful treasure did not completely belong to him. It was a pity. This blood god immortal court flag was left behind by Zhu Juntian. Its true owner was also Zhu Juntian. This had never changed. The human emperor was only given the right to use it. As long as Zhu Juntian returned or wanted to take back this supreme treasure, he had no ability to stop him. Actually, before he used this immortal supreme treasure, the human emperor did not have much thoughts about this treasure, nor did he think of snatching it. But it was different now. After truly activating the power of the blood god immortal court flag, the human emperor realized that not only was this supreme treasure extremely powerful, the immortal domain laws contained in it were also complete. This could be extremely beneficial to his cultivation. As long as he held this supreme treasure, he could obtain the nourishment of the complete immortal domain laws and his cultivation realm would increase. If I can always hold this supreme treasure, I should be able to stay a step ahead of the Lord of the Immortals and step into the 11th true world realm in advance. The human emperor looked in the direction of the East Sea and thought to himself, at that time, I can completely eliminate the immortal race. As for the outcome of the current battle, he was already certain that as long as he had this blood god immortal court flag, It was impossible for him to lose. With the power of 100,000 divine blood soldiers, even experts at the 11th True World realm had to retreat. However, after the immortal domains shattered, were there still 11th True World realm experts in the universe? No one had seen one since ancient times. Thank you for reading on my box novel. 588 Immortal Treasure and the Lord of the Immortals, 2. 588 Immortal Treasure and the Lord of the Immortals, 2. The world shook, as if the entire immortal land was trembling. The power of the 100,000 divine blood soldiers had already formed a blood-colored river that connected the entire immortal land. It surged over majestically and washed towards Quihung below. At this moment, all the experts who were fighting felt terrified, afraid that the power of these 100,000 divine blood soldiers would be too powerful and would shatter this immortal land. It was not impossible. After all, this was a treasure left behind from an immortal domain, a legendary treasure used by the immortal court during battle. It had the complete laws of the immortal domain, and the limit of its power was immeasurable. Boom! An extremely terrifying aura spread out. The blood-colored river had already arrived on the ground and was about to drown Quihung. Qui Qing is about to die, the human emperor said indifferently. The power of the human emperor is boundless. Tai Hong heaved a sigh of relief. Qui Qing was too powerful. He could not be left alive. Many experts who were paying attention to this battle also relaxed and were no longer nervous. Facing such a terrifying blood-colored river, Qui Qing would definitely die. It was impossible for him to have any chance of survival. However, at this moment, Quihung moved. He still raised his hand extremely casually. He still did not use any dharmic powers and only used the power of his body. His 5 fingers clenched into a fist and suddenly smashed towards the blood-colored river. Boom! An indescribable bang rang out and exploded, instantly reaching the minds of every living being in this immortal land, making them feel as if the world was about to shatter. An extremely strong sense of fear immediately filled their hearts. Many living beings could not help but kneel on the ground and worship this power. Even the paramount true immortals who were paying attention to this battle became flustered. The moment Quihung punched out, their faces turned pale. They looked at Quihung in disbelief, almost unable to believe their eyes. Accompanied by an extremely terrifying bang, the mighty blood-colored river was actually swept back by Quihung's punch. It went from flowing down to flowing up into the sky. As the blood-colored river rolled back, layers of void were destroyed, and great Dao laws shattered one after another. At the same time, the sky began to tremble violently. The ground had already begun to crack in all directions. Mountains that were tens of thousands of feet tall collapsed, and rivers, lakes, and seas boiled. It was as if the world was really about to be destroyed. What kind of terrifying power was this? With just a punch, he sent the blood-colored river that was enough to threaten an 11th True World realm expert back, causing the entire immortal land to show a scene similar to the end of the world. Moreover, it was a punch that did not contain any special power. It only had pure physical strength. What kind of body was this? Was he actually a ferocious beast in human form? It was too terrifying. Now, everyone who was paying attention to Quihung was stunned. The scene in front of them had completely exceeded their imagination. They had never even thought that such power could exist. It was too ridiculous. In the central capital imperial city, the human emperor naturally noticed this situation. His hand trembled slightly as he took a deep breath, as if he was calming down. He said in a low voice, "You're quite capable. However, the power of the blood god immortal court flag is far from this." With that, the human emperor wanted to further activate the power of the blood god immortal court flag. But at this moment, something unexpected happened. Oh no! The human emperor's expression suddenly changed drastically, and his eyes revealed an expression of disbelief. He said in shock, "How is this possible? This is impossible." A huge hole suddenly appeared in the sky above the capital of the Liang kingdom. The sound of waves surging could be heard in the sky. Then, a huge palm stretched out from the hole and grabbed the blood-colored flag. In an instant, the 100,000 divine blood soldiers disappeared, and the blood-colored river instantly dissipated. All the phenomena in the world disappeared, as if they had never existed. Brother Flag, we've met again after so long. A voice filled with sighs and nostalgia came from the void, followed by an incomparably ethereal and powerful aura that was difficult to track. This aura completely surpassed the 9th True World realm, causing some Overlord-level paramount True Immortals to be horrified. Lord of the Immortals! Lord of the Immortals! How was this possible? Exclamations resounded everywhere. The human emperor in the central capital city's expression was extremely gloomy. He looked down at his empty palm and was so angry that his entire body was trembling. He gritted his teeth and said, "So the reason why Zhu Juntian left this immortal supreme treasure behind? It wasn't to help me at all." The human emperor's control over the blood god immortal court flag came from the power left behind by Zhu Juntian. He used the power left behind by Zhu Juntian to activate this immortal supreme treasure. This power left behind by Zhu Juntian could also prevent the supreme treasure from being snatched away by the immortal race. Therefore, the human emperor was at ease and boldly activated the blood god immortal court flag. He was not worried that the Lord of the Immortals would take action to snatch this supreme treasure. However, just now, Zhu Juntian's power in the blood god immortal court flag actually automatically subsided and turned into nothingness. Not only did this make the human emperor lose control of this immortal supreme treasure, but it also gave the Lord of the Immortals, who had long been driven to exile, a chance to snatch this supreme treasure. Zhu Juntian lied to me. The blood god immortal court flag has been snatched away by the Lord of the Immortals, the human emperor said to Taihong beside him. What? Taihong was shocked when he heard this. He said in shock, what should we do? Don't worry, I didn't completely believe Zhu Juntian, so I naturally left a trump card. The human emperor's eyes flickered with killing intent as he sneered. Do you still remember the person who came here 200 years ago? I remember. That person is very strange. Taihong nodded and said curiously, but that person is only at the 5th True World realm. What use can he have? He's very useful. The corners of the human emperor's mouth curled up slightly as he smiled and said, "He's enough for me to completely rule the immortal realm. Follow me." At this moment, the Lord of the Immortals had already completely controlled the blood god immortal court flag and descended from the East Sea to the sky above the capital of the Liang Kingdom. A middle-aged man with an incomparably noble aura slowly descended from an endless height. His entire body was enveloped in purple light, and he was wearing a crowned robe and holding a blood-colored flag. He was the strongest expert who ruled the Immortals overseas. The Lord of the Immortals. He held the immortal supreme treasure in his hand and stood in the air. His gaze swept across the world, and he felt an indescribable comfortable feeling in his heart. He smiled and said, "How many years has it been? I've finally returned to this immortal land." Buzz. Buzz. The blood god immortal court flag was also humming slightly, as if it was celebrating that it had finally returned to the hands of the Immortals. The Lord of the Immortals gently stroked the blood-colored flag. His gaze was very gentle, as if he was communicating with it. Then, he lowered his head to look at Kui Hung below. "Human, you've helped me retrieve my race's supreme treasure. I should thank you. However, Brother Flag feels that he didn't manage to kill you earlier because he couldn't use his full strength in the hands of the human emperor. He's very indignant. Now that Brother Flag is in my hands, I can finally unleash all his power to my heart's content. I will definitely be able to kill you. I can only trouble you. I need your life to satisfy Brother Flag. It can also be considered as celebrating our reunion. I'm sorry, human. Thank you for reading on my box novel. 589 Human Emperors Light and Shadow, Hong Fugue deep in the imperial city of the central capital. 589 Human Emperors Light and Shadow, Hong Fugue deep in the imperial city of the central capital. In the hands of the Lord of the Immortals, the blood god immortal court flag seemed to have regained its vitality. Although the power contained in the original red light was powerful, it gave off a lifeless feeling. Now that it was held in the palm of the Lord of the Immortals, it became incomparably agile. Even the 100,000 divine blood soldiers seemed to have come to life and become true living beings. The power fluctuations on their bodies also soared. Such a change made all the experts who were paying attention to this place tremble in fear. The current 100,000 divine blood soldiers were countless times stronger than before. Could anyone really resist such a powerful force? Could Kui Qing have been killed just like that? At this moment, the human experts of the immortal land were very conflicted. They wanted Kui Qing to die quickly, but they also wanted Kui Qing to deal with the Lord of the Immortals. Of course, in comparison, there might be more people who hoped that it was the latter. After all, Kui Qing was just a powerful being. He might only be a threat to them, but he was not necessarily a direct danger to their lives. But the Lord of the Immortals was different. The Immortals had a blood feud with all the humans. They would fight to the death. If the Lord of the Immortals gained power, the entire human race would suffer. Due to this mentality, most of the experts in the immortal land actually began to support Kui Qing. They hoped that Kui Qing could kill or repel the Lord of the Immortals. In that case, the human race could still live stably. However, they all knew that this hope was actually not very realistic. In his current state, the Lord of the Immortals was almost invincible. No matter how powerful Kui Qing was, he was probably no match for him. At this moment, Kui Heng was also staring at the 100,000 divine blood soldiers in the sky with a scrutinizing gaze. In the hands of the Lord of the Immortals, the power aura emitted by the blood god immortal court flag was indeed much stronger than in the hands of the human emperor. But to him, it did not make much of a difference. It was like how there was no difference between a speck of dust or a piece of dirt when thrown into the sun. They were equally insignificant. However, he was a little puzzled. Why did these people always act as if they could handle him? Could it be that these people were not afraid that his strength had surpassed the 10th True World Realm or even the 11th True World Realm? After all, when he repelled the blood-colored river earlier, the power that erupted had already surpassed the 10th True World Realm. They should be able to tell his strength from this. Why did this Lord of the Immortals still acted like victory was in his grasp? Is it because they have something to rely on? Or do they know some secrets and think that it's impossible for a 11th True World Realm cultivator to appear in this immortal land? Kui Heng thought to himself. Just as Kui Heng was feeling puzzled, the Lord of the Immortals standing proudly in the sky was already preparing to attack. He held the Blood Sea Immortal Court flag and stood at the front of the 100,000 divine blood soldiers like the Supreme Commander, preparing to wave this blood-colored flag and give the order to attack. However, at this moment, the Lord of the Immortals looked at Kui Heng below and recalled the scene of this person fighting the human emperor. He had an idea. At this moment, he suddenly said to Kui Heng, "Human, I don't know how you have such powerful strength, but I also know that it's not easy for an expert like you to appear in the human race. And you should know very well how many difficulties and obstacles you have experienced to be able to cultivate to this realm. Are you willing to die just like that? Actually, I cherish your aptitude and strength very much. I don't want to kill someone who can fight the human emperor just like that. That would be a pity. How about this? As long as you're willing to submit to me, I can guide you to become an immortal and give you a longer lifespan." As soon as the Lord of the Immortals said this, everyone was stunned. Whether it was the Overlord-level paramount true immortals or the ancient experts who had lived for a long time, they were all stunned when they heard this, and their faces revealed dense shock. What followed was a huge sense of fear. The Lord of the Immortals actually wanted to subdue Kui Qing and even promised to transform Kui Qing into an immortal. If Kui Qing agreed, the human race would be finished. Kui Heng's expression became strange as he chuckled. "Do you know what you're talking about?" The Lord of the Immortals still said with a serious expression, "You don't have to doubt my sincerity. I'm the Lord of the Immortals and a true citizen of the immortal domain. There's no need to lie to you. Since you're so sincere." Kui Heng's gaze turned to the blood-colored flag and he smiled. "What if I say that I'll only join the immortals if you give me this supreme treasure?" The expression of the Lord of the Immortals instantly darkened as he snorted coldly. "I saw that your cultivation was not easy to come by, so I made such a suggestion. Don't push your luck. You're courting death. I was just teasing you." Kui Heng's smile bloomed. At the same time, he raised his right hand to capture the Lord of the Immortals. However, his expression suddenly changed as he suddenly looked in the direction of the central capital city. This is. Then, he turned and was about to head to the central capital imperial city. However, at this moment, the Lord of the Immortals was completely enraged. He shook the blood god immortal court flag again and scattered billions of blood-colored lights towards Kui Heng. He ordered the 100,000 divine blood soldiers to surround Kui Heng and kill him. Do you still want to escape at this point? The Lord of the Immortals shouted sternly, "Stay here." Noisy. Kui Heng snorted coldly. His right hand formed a sword with his fingers and he suddenly waved it in the sky. In an instant, a golden sword light condensed on his fingertips, and a terrifying aura that seemed to have existed since before the creation of the world spread out. This sword light seemed to symbolize the beginning of everything and the end of everything. The moment it condensed, everything around it was annihilated. Clang! An indescribable sword cry sounded from the void, instantly spreading throughout the entire immortal land. Regardless of their cultivation level or intelligence, they all heard this sword cry. Then, their bodies trembled as they looked at the sky in shock. This was the Tao Life Sword. It was one of the immortal techniques Kui Heng had mastered. Under the power of this sword light, be it the billions of blood-colored lights or the 100,000 divine blood soldiers, they were all swept away like fowls and dogs, instantly turning into nothingness and no longer existing. Before the Lord of the Immortals could even react, this sword light had already rushed in front of him. In his shock, he tried to use the blood god immortal court flag to block it. However, this so-called immortal domain supreme treasure was like a thin piece of paper when facing the Tao Life Sword. It could not defend at all and was directly pierced through. How is this possible? The Lord of the Immortals was horrified. He had never thought that this would be the outcome, let alone that Kui Heng would actually have such powerful strength. After the immortal domains shattered, all the experts above the 11th True World realm had disappeared. Without the complete laws of the immortal domains, they could not break through to the 11th True World realm. How could such an unbelievably powerful existence suddenly appear? Unfortunately, his doubts would never be answered. Due to the urgency of the situation, Kui Heng did not hold back at all. The power of the Tao Life Sword was extremely powerful. The moment it came into contact with the Lord of the Immortals, it completely drowned him and his body and soul were destroyed. The world fell silent, and countless experts were horrified. No one expected this battle to end like this. In the hands of this Kui Ching, the Lord of the Immortals was actually like an ant that was casually crushed to death. The blood god immortal court flag was also destroyed in one strike. What kind of strength was this? What kind of realm was this? Unbelievable. Kui Heng did not even look at him. After casually killing the Lord of the Immortals, he headed straight for the central capital imperial city. He did have some things to ask the Lord of the Immortals, but he was not in a hurry. After returning from the central capital imperial city, he could use the resurrection technique to revive him. The most important thing now was to go to the central capital imperial city to investigate the situation. Hong Fugue's aura appeared there. Thank you for reading on my box novel. 590 Human Emperors Light and Shadow, Hong Fugue deep in the imperial city of the central capital, 2. 590 Human Emperors Light and Shadow, Hong Fugue deep in the imperial city of the central capital, 2. In the deepest part of the central capital imperial city, the human emperor brought Tai Hong to a palace surrounded by restrictions and array formations. After walking into the palace, the first thing they saw were layers of restrictions and array formations. After repeating this cycle 99 times, the two of them finally arrived at the innermost part of the palace. But there was only an exquisite metal box here. Tai Hong looked puzzled. The human emperor walked over with a smile and slowly opened the metal box. He took out a jade box and opened it to take out a bronze box. "You," Tai Hong said in surprise, "is that person actually so special? He's actually worth you setting up such a tight concealment array." From the restrictions and array formations outside the palace at the beginning to the layers of boxes now, they were all set up to hide this person's aura. What exactly was he hiding in such a tight arrangement? That person was only at the 5th True World Realm cultivator. Was it worth a person at the 11th True World Realm like the human emperor doing this? In order to hide his uniqueness, it's not too much to set up 100 times more complicated arrays. The human emperor smiled faintly and pointed at the jade box. Follow me. Tai Hong followed the human king into the jade box and realized that there was actually another palace wrapped in countless array formations inside. Now, he finally understood what the human emperor meant by 100 times more complicated. That was not an exaggeration, but the truth. After repeating this 180 times, Tai Hong finally followed the human emperor to a small world with a radius of less than 30 miles. As soon as he arrived, Tai Hong frowned. The laws of heaven and earth here were extremely thin, and it was almost impossible to cultivate. Then, he saw a towering tree planted in the middle of this small world. At this moment, under this towering tree, a middle-aged man was sitting cross-legged. His eyes were slightly closed, and his temperament was calm, giving off a peaceful feeling. It was Hong Fuguei, who had come to the central capital imperial city 200 years ago. Back then, when he traveled here, the human emperor discovered the uniqueness of his body and imprisoned him here, setting up countless concealment restrictions. Hongwu, we meet again, the human emperor said with a smile. Human emperor, you're here again. Hong Fuguei's eyes were still slightly closed. He did not open them and only said indifferently, please go back. It's impossible for me to agree. I know that you won't agree. The smile on the human emperor's face did not fade. He walked towards Hong Fuguei and smiled. This time, I'm not here to ask for your permission. I'm determined to obtain the human monarch body. Oh, actually, I don't have the body of a human monarch at all. Hong Fuguei opened his eyes when he heard this. His cold gaze landed on the human emperor's face, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly as he chuckled. However, you won't believe this explanation. Speaking of which, you said that you were determined to obtain it 200 years ago, but you're still saying this now. Are you already prepared? That's right. The human emperor had already arrived under the towering tree. He looked at Hong Fuguei, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground, and said in a low voice, you have a rare treasure. 200 years ago, I couldn't possess you, but in the past 200 years, I've already finished making my preparations. Since you're so confident, why is there a need to say so much? Just attack. Hong Fuguei looked at the human emperor with a faint smile and closed his eyes, as if he didn't care what the human emperor would do. The human emperor fell silent for a moment. He stared at Hong Fuguei and suddenly laughed. Heh, with your attitude, are you really not afraid of death, or do you have other plans? Won't you know after you attack? Hong Fuguei said indifferently. Moreover, after I die, my teacher will naturally avenge me. What's there to be afraid of? Teacher. The human emperor's eyes narrowed slightly. The figure who was confronting the Lord of the Immortals suddenly appeared in his mind. He said in a low voice, what's your teacher's name? Are you worthy of knowing my teacher's name? Hong Fuguei opened his eyes and glanced at the human emperor disdainfully. Then, he closed his eyes calmly. This person seems to be taking the initiative to provoke us, Tai Hong reminded at the side. You have to be careful. I know. The human emperor's eyes flickered as he said to Hong Fuguei, you can't hide your thoughts from me. Whether you want to use this opportunity to make me shrink back in fear or if you really have a trump card, I won't care. In the past 200 years, I've already made sufficient preparations. No matter what methods you have, it's useless. If your teacher really comes, I'll use your human monarch body to personally kill him. With that, the light in his eyes suddenly intensified, and the aura in his entire body was restrained. At the same time, an incomparably pure and huge soul power seeped out of the human emperor's eyes and rushed towards the center of Hong Fuguei's brows. Possession. An incomparably huge soul power condensed into substance and flipped Tai Hong, who was standing at the side, over. Then, it formed a huge cocoon of light that enveloped the human emperor and Hong Fuguei. Buzz. Buzz. A trembling sound suddenly rang out in the small world, and the entire void trembled. A brilliant purple light suddenly surged out of the light cocoon. This light was noble and dignified, filled with benevolence and compassion. It contained endless light and shadows, countless spacetime dimensions, and the scenes of human civilization in countless worlds. From the era of living in the wilderness, to overcoming all obstacles and educating all living beings. Civilizations rose and became capable of slaying immortals and gods from above and evil demons from below. This was the path to the rise of the human race. In this layer of light and shadow, in countless spacetime dimensions and innumerable worlds, there was a common figure leading the human race out of the wilderness and towards a rise. The human monarch. Bang! 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 A series of explosions suddenly sounded from the light cocoon, as if some force was about to rush out and explode. At the same time, the towering tree suddenly lit up with a light filled with vitality. Branches descended and covered the huge light cocoon. This is, when Taihong saw this scene, he immediately felt flustered. Could the human emperor be about to fail? Boom! At this moment, the sky above this small world suddenly collapsed. Someone had actually directly pierced through thousands of layers of restrictions and hundreds of world barriers and descended. What followed was a stern shout. How dare you! Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com. 591 Reunion after 2,000 years. 591 Reunion after 2,000 years. At the same time that Hong Fugue was wrapped in the light cocoon, Kui Heng sensed the situation there. He naturally sensed that Hong Fugue was being possessed by the human emperor. Hence, he attacked angrily. There was no flaw at all. How powerful was the dharmic powers of a late-stage soul formation cultivator? This was a power that could destroy a star sea that contained hundreds of billions of celestial bodies. Although this immortal land was formed with the immortal domain fragments as the core and absorbed and refined hundreds of star seas from a holy land, it still produced an extremely terrifying commotion when Kui Heng's terrifying dharmic powers erupted. At the same time that Kui Heng attacked in anger and broke through the concealment restrictions set up by the human emperor, the entire immortal land shook, and an aura of shattering appeared. Countless cracks appeared in the sky, and wisps of black and yellow chi poured down. A violent spatial storm spread in all directions, as if the sky was about to collapse. An incomparably terrifying phenomenon appeared on the ground. Mountains hundreds of thousands of feet tall began to spew earth fire and lava. Thick smoke soared into the sky and collided with the spatial storm and the black-yellow chi, forming an extremely terrifying turbulence that scattered in all directions. It was an apocalyptic scene everywhere. Boom! Suddenly, a loud bang that could spread throughout the entire immortal land came from the direction of the central capital. Everyone looked at the sky in horror. The sky had collapsed. This was a true collapse of the sky. The sky above the central capital imperial city was like a roof that had been completely smashed through. Dense cracks covered a radius of more than tens of thousands of miles. This space had already completely shattered, and black-yellow chi poured down crazily like a river. Other than the black-yellow chi, there was also the primordial chi at the outermost area of the immortal land world. At the same time that the primordial chi poured in, the astral winds, the void turbulence, the sea of lightning, and so on were all washed down by the vast backflow of energy. If one looked up at the sky of the central capital at this moment, they would discover that the starry sky was unprecedentedly bright and clear. They could even see rivers of stars flowing in the dark and deep void, and star seas revolving. However, it was actually a very bad thing for the primordial chi and black-yellow chi to pour down at the same time. In the sky above the central capital city, a strange area of black-yellow chi and primordial chi quickly formed. Gradually, it began to transform into the most primitive clear chi and quickly corroded the surrounding great Tao laws, space, and matter. In the blink of an eye, more than 100 kilometers of the sky was corroded and transformed into primitive clear chi. It was no longer in the form of the great Tao laws or space and matter. The sky was disappearing. If someone was in the starry sky of the universe at this moment and looked down at the immortal land in the middle of the silver disk star sea from an extremely high angle, they would be able to clearly see an extremely terrifying scene. A huge hole appeared directly above this vast world. With this hole as the center, it quickly collapsed into the surroundings, turning into the most primitive clear chi. When enough clear chi was converted, it would naturally affect everything on the ground, causing it to fall into a complete collapse. In the end, it would turn into the most primitive turbid chi and fuse with the clear chi, returning to chaos. This meant that if this hole was not closed, the entire immortal land would completely collapse and fall towards destruction. It was only at this moment that those experts who had lived for thousands of years finally realized that this Kui Ching was not an expert at the 10th or 11th true world realm. This person's strength had completely exceeded their understanding. He was a terrifying existence that they could not even imagine. He could actually cause the entire immortal land to fall into an apocalyptic crisis with a single strike. What kind of terrifying existence was this? Could this great expert be here to destroy the world? He's too powerful. Where did he come from? Why is he so powerful? What did the human emperor do to make this existence so angry? At this moment, no one dared to directly call the name Kui Ching directly. They only dared to use a name that contained respect. At this moment, Kui Heng was not in the mood to care about the outside world. He had already descended into the small world and saw the huge light cocoon. Then, his gaze passed through the light cocoon and he discovered the human emperor and Hong Fuguei inside. Possession? How dare you? Kui Heng snorted coldly. He swept his gaze around and discovered Tai Hong standing at the side. He said in a low voice, "Hi Supreme Tai Hong, it's our first time meeting." After seeing the situation inside the light cocoon, he realized that although Hong Fuguei had been possessed by the human emperor, from the current situation, Hong Fuguei might not be the one to suffer in the end. As a 10th true world realm expert, the human emperor was in danger of failing to succeed in possessing Hong Fuguei, a 5th true world realm cultivator. That was because there was an extremely powerful treasure in Hong Fuguei's body. It was this treasure that was helping Hong Fuguei resist the possession of the human emperor. He might even be able to counterattack. Hence, Kui Heng did not help directly. Instead, he planned to let Hong Fuguei complete this matter himself. Of course, if Hong Fuguei did not succeed in the end and could not withstand the human emperor's attack, he would also help. Thank you for reading on my box novel. 592 Reunion after 2000 years, 2. 592 Reunion after 2000 years, 2. Now was not the time. Tai Hong was also a little stunned at this moment. He had never seen Kui Ching before. Why did this person know him? As soon as this doubt appeared in his mind, a guess followed. "You've been to the heaven realm?" Tai Hong said in shock. Then, he felt that this was only natural. How could someone who could find this immortal land not have been to the heaven realm before? It was normal for him to know him. "Not only have I been to the heaven realm, but I've also been to Grand Yang planet and met Chen Tianxia." Kui Heng smiled and said, "Elder Tai Hong and that heavenly venerate Jun Tian have planned very well." "You, who exactly are you?" Tai Hong's face turned slightly pale as he said in fear. At the same time, his feet were also retreating slightly. He kept looking in the direction of the light cocoon, hoping that the human emperor could complete the possession as soon as possible. As long as the human emperor became stronger, it was possible to resolve this crisis. Tai Hong was worried that Kui Ching was on good terms with Tianqi Mansion and had come to the immortal land to capture him. Then, he, the traitor of Tianqi Mansion, would be finished. "You don't have to ask me who I am." Kui Heng was still smiling as he shook his head gently. Then, he asked, "I have a question for you. Where did Zhu Juntian go?" "Zhu Juntian?" Tai Hong was stunned when he heard that. At the same time, he heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly replied, "He left a long time ago and stayed in this immortal land for less than 100 years. However, I don't know where he went. Before he left this immortal land, he only communicated with the human emperor. Perhaps the human emperor knows his realm." "I see." Kui Heng nodded slightly. When Tai Hong saw Kui Heng nod, his nervous heart immediately relaxed a lot. However, he quickly heard Kui Heng say, "I still have to confirm if what you said is true." Hence, he grabbed Tai Hong's head with one hand. At the same time, the power of his soul seeped out of his body and rushed into Tai Hong's Niwen Palace in a mighty manner, enveloping his soul. Soul search. All the memories of Tai Hong's long life immediately turned into shadows. Accompanied by the flood of information, Kui Heng finished browsing in the blink of an eye and casually threw Tai Hong to the side. After reading Tai Hong's memories, the expression on Kui Heng's face became a little strange. He looked at Tai Hong with a faint smile and said, "You actually trust Zhu Juntian so much." Through soul-searching, he learned that the reason why Tai Hong stayed here to help the human emperor was because Zhu Juntian had promised him that he could bring him into the incomplete immortal domain in the future. According to Zhu Juntian's description, although the 6 immortal domains had shattered into countless fragments and formed countless immortal lands, not all the fragments had become immortal lands. Immortal domains' fragments were drawn to each other and sometimes gathered together. After a long time, they had already formed some incomplete immortal domains. Although these incomplete immortal domains could not compare to the complete immortal domains back then, they contained the complete immortal domain laws. One could become a true immortal through a normal cultivation path. Well, from Tai Hong's memories, he could tell that there was indeed something wrong with the true immortal cultivation technique of this immortal land. Here, true immortals needed to absorb the immortal bodies of the cultivators of other immortal lands to become paramount true immortals. Then, they would continue to absorb and refine the immortal bodies to complete their immortal domain laws. In the end, they would refine a supreme true immortal body. When one reached the peak, they would be able to reach the 10th true world realm. However, in reality, as long as this immortal land was captured by the incomplete immortal domains, it would encounter a huge calamity. At that time, all the paramount true immortals here who had completed the completion of their immortal domain laws would be refined and absorbed as materials to complete the incomplete immortal domains. What Tai Hong wanted to do was to hide the truth about this problematic cultivation method and help the human emperor destroy the immortal race. That was because the immortal race knew the normal true immortal cultivation method. Although it was impossible for the immortal race to tell the humans about the normal true immortal cultivation method, as long as they had this information, it would be a hidden danger that had to be eliminated. Zhu Juntian promised that as long as Tai Hong could complete this, he would bring him to the incomplete immortal domains and guide him on the normal path of a true immortal. However, this was just an empty promise. Tai Hong actually believed it without a doubt. Why wouldn't I believe him? Tai Hong had already collapsed to the ground. He smiled self-deprecatingly and said, "Since you've read my memories, you should know that on the path of cultivation, I'm just trash. If not for Heavenly Venerable Juntian guiding me to the Silver Disc Star Sea back then, I probably wouldn't even be able to step into the 3rd true world realm, let alone become a true immortal like now. Heavenly Venerate Juntian has done me such a favor. Why should I doubt him? Moreover, he has fulfilled all his promises to me and has never broken his promises." Kui Heng fell silent when he heard this. What Tai Hong said was the truth, but he was still stunned for a moment. Zhu Juntian is so scheming. From the Grand Yang planet to the Silver Disc Star Sea, to this immortal land, and the incomplete immortal domains. What exactly does he want to do? Why are you asking me? Tai Hong smiled strangely. I don't know. You flipped through my memories. I only know that he seemed to be looking for something, but he couldn't find it. All right. Kui Heng nodded. This was also the result of his soul search on Tai Hong. From the looks of it, he probably wouldn't be able to obtain any new clues from Tai Hong. Then, he looked at the huge cocoon of light again. At this moment, the condition of the 2 people inside was already different from before. Originally, the aura of a human emperor was far stronger than Hong Fugue's, but now, Hong Fugue's aura had already begun to surpass that of the human emperor. The entire process of possession began to reverse. From the human emperor wanting to possess Hong Fugue, it became Hong Fugue starting to absorb the power of the human emperor. At the same time, the shadows of the human civilization flickering outside the cocoon of light became more and more obvious. It was as if history had appeared in this void. Tai Hong, who was sitting at the side, also sensed the change in this situation, and a trace of despair could not help but flash across his eyes. The human emperor was actually going to fail. He was completely finished. A moment later, boom! A loud bang suddenly came from the huge cocoon of light, as if something had exploded. Immediately after, a huge crack suddenly appeared on the surface of the light cocoon. A bright and dazzling golden light burst out from it, illuminating the small world. The image of the human civilization also shone brightly, igniting the flames of civilization one after another. A clear and glistening light with the reflection of waves surged out, filled with the aura of holiness and virtue. The two shone brightly, illuminating a figure in the cocoon of light that appeared incomparably sacred. Then, a middle-aged man covered in golden light and wrapped in the flames of civilization slowly walked out of the cocoon. Above his head floated a palm-sized jade cauldron. It contained extremely powerful humanitarian power. Whether it was the flames of civilization or the sacred water light screen, they all surged out from it. The moment this middle-aged man walked out, dense cracks quickly appeared on the huge light cocoon. In the blink of an eye, it turned into countless streams of light that scattered and disappeared. Only a haggard man who looked like rotten wood was left sitting cross-legged on the ground. He was motionless and on the verge of death. It was the human emperor who had wanted to possess Hong Fugui earlier. When Tai Hong saw this scene, he immediately felt his vision go dark and his heart turned ashen. Hong Fugui felt that his current state was unprecedentedly good, and he was in an incomparably good mood. He wished he could immediately roar at the sky and release his energy. However, when he saw the figure not far away, he froze, and his gaze completely froze. His face revealed an expression of disbelief, followed by ecstasy. Kui Heng looked at the middle-aged man who was stunned on the spot and smiled. The ragged and young figure in his mind slowly overlapped with him. This was a reunion after nearly 2,000 years. Thank you for reading on my box novel. 593 Mending Split Sky, Overturning Heaven, Chatting in the Grotto Heaven. 593 Mending Split Sky, Overturning Heaven, Chatting in the Grotto Heaven. Hong Fugui looked at Kui Heng blankly. He knew very well that in his current state, it was almost impossible for him to fall into an illusion. What he was seeing now was a real scene. The teacher who had taught him the Great Tao, pointed out his life goals, and established the foundation of his thoughts had actually appeared in front of him. Every time he went to a place, he would carefully inquire about Kui Heng, but he never found any clues. He did not expect them to suddenly reunite at this time. Was this really not a dream? At this moment, Hong Fugui's mind was already filled with a huge surprise. It took him a while to recover. However, just as he was about to bow and pay his respects, Kui Heng suddenly shook his head gently. He was a little puzzled, but he did not ask. Instead, he glanced at Tai Hong beside him. Could it be that this fellow was the reason that his teacher was unable to acknowledge him? At this moment, Tai Hong also realized the abnormality between Kui Heng and Hong Fugui. Speculations flashed through his mind as he said in shock, You know each other? It's over, it's completely. He knew very well why the human emperor had imprisoned Hongwu, and he also knew what kind of enmity this would cause. There was no way to reconcile them at all. Only one side could remain alive. Now that Hongwu had escaped, he seemed to have absorbed the power of the human emperor. His aura had already surpassed that of the human emperor and he was suspected to know Kui Qing. And the human emperor was already on the verge of death. Clearly, it was impossible for him to attack. How could an 8th true world realm expert cultivator like him escape from Kui Qing and Hongwu? It was over. However, Kui Heng ignored Tai Hong's words and the change in his mood. He only smiled and explained to Hong Fugui, I still have some small problems to solve. Bring the two of them with you and follow me. With that, he turned around and flew out of the small world. Previously, when he attacked in anger, he erupted with extremely powerful dharmic powers, affecting the state of this immortal land a little. Now, the situation has become a little serious. He had to resolve it as soon as possible. Yes. Hong Fugui nodded. He casually shook his sleeve and formed an invisible void vortex. He grabbed the rotten wood-like human emperor and the shocked Tai Hong behind him and flew out of the small world with Kui Heng. Before obtaining Kui Heng's permission, Hong Fugui would not call him teacher when there were outsiders around. What kind of small problem requires teacher to personally take action? Hong Fugui was a little puzzled. He had been imprisoned for 200 years and did not know much about the changes outside. Therefore, when he flew out of the small world with Kui Heng, he was immediately stunned by the scene in front of him. He was a little stunned. A huge hole had already appeared in the sky that was originally intact. Countless primordial chi and black-yellow chi surged into the sky through the huge hole like a river entering the sea, turning into balls of primitive clear chi. This primitive clear chi had an extremely terrifying corrosive characteristic and was quickly corroding this world, as if it wanted to restore this world to its original state and return it to chaos. Apocalypse. This was the first time Hong Fuguei had felt this word so directly. When he realized that this was a world-destroying calamity, his first reaction was to look at Kui Heng. He said in shock, "Could it be that the small problem that teacher said he wanted to solve is this world-destroying situation?" This was a small problem. Tai Hong was also stunned at this moment. He looked at Kui Heng in disbelief, his mouth wide open, as if he had seen a ghost. He said with a trembling voice, this is. When Kui Heng had attacked angrily and barged into the small world, Hong Fuguei was still resisting the human emperor's possession. The human emperor was also trying his best to attack Hong Fuguei's soul defense and was not in the mood to care about the situation outside. Therefore, neither of them had felt the dharmic powers released by Kui Heng at that time. However, Tai Hong was different. At that time, he personally sensed the scene of Kui Heng breaking through all the barriers and shattering the small world. Naturally, he also sensed Kui Heng's dharmic powers. However, at that time, he only knew that Kui Heng was incomparably powerful, but he never expected him to be so unbelievably powerful. The dharmic powers that pierced through the barrier set up by the human king were not just that. They even pierced through the sky, causing the entire immortal land to fall into destruction. What kind of power was this? What kind of might was this? It was too terrifying. It simply exceeded everyone's understanding and imagination. Unbelievable. Could humans really reach such a level through cultivation? At this moment, the human emperor, who was on the verge of death, suddenly opened his eyes. However, when he saw the phenomenon in the sky, he seemed to have suffered a huge mental impact and his face turned pale. What's going on? Then, he saw the figure standing in front suddenly begin to grow larger. 100 feet, 1,000 feet, 10,000 feet, 1,000,000 feet. In the blink of an eye, he had already reached the sky and stepped on the ground. He only needed to raise his hand to enter the huge hole. This was the heavenly transformation spell. At this moment, the entire immortal land had fallen into chaos. Although the original clear chi was only spreading in the sky above the central capital city and did not really threaten ordinary living beings, such a terrifying scene was enough to make all living beings feel fear. Thank you for reading on my box novel. 594 Mending Split Sky, Overturning Heaven, Chatting in the Grotto Heaven. 594 Mending Split Sky, Overturning Heaven, Chatting in the Grotto Heaven. Whether it was the weak ordinary living beings, the powerful true immortals, or the paramount true immortals, they all became flustered in the face of such a world-ending apocalypse. However, they were helpless. They did not know what to do at this time. Escape. Where could they escape to? The entire immortal land was about to be destroyed. Due to the long-term seal, almost no one thought of escaping from this immortal land. Even if they did not know how to escape. After all, the primordial chi at the outermost area of the immortal land not only prevented people from entering, but also blocked the people on the surface from leaving. Just as all the living beings were feeling despair, a figure suddenly rushed into the sky. This figure was incomparably huge. It could actually reach the sky above his head and step on the ground. It was a true indomitable state. He looked like a young man. He wore a light green robe and had a jade crown on his head. His entire body emitted a faint purple-gold light and was filled with a holy aura. He raised his hands and clenched his fingers as if he was absorbing something. Immediately, the black-yellow chi and primordial chi that were crazily fusing into the immortal land stopped, preventing the primordial clear chi from being born. At the same time, he stopped the spread of the primordial chi. The sky no longer continued to be converted into clear chi. The world-ending apocalypse was temporarily restrained. At this moment, even in the remotest corners of this immortal land, one could clearly see this huge figure and feel his aura. There were also countless people who kowtowed to him and kept praying, hoping that this world-ending apocalypse could be resolved. Kui Ching, it's actually Kui Ching. What is he doing? Could he repair the sky that was pierced through? This is almost comparable to the power of creation. If he can really repair this sky, he's simply a god of creation. Many ancient experts who had seen this figure exclaimed. Just now, they had personally seen Kui Ching attack in anger, piercing through the sky and causing the entire immortal land to fall into a world-ending apocalypse. At that time, they thought that they had already seen the peak of cultivation. Unexpectedly, Kui Ching was actually going to repair the sky that had been pierced through. What kind of power was required for this? Now that the primordial chi was already wreaking havoc, if he wanted to restore everything in the world to its original state, if he wanted to repair the sky, he had to evolve and transform this mass of primordial chi back into normal matter, space, and laws. This was the power of creation. It was far more difficult than piercing through the sky. What kind of realm was Kui Ching at? He could actually do so many things. It was simply too unbelievable. Just as they were marveling at this, Kui Heng, who was in the heavenly transformation state, had already begun to transform the primordial chi. Moreover, he quickly converted a huge amount of primordial chi and black-yellow chi. These two auras that symbolize the source of the world quickly began to transform under Kui Heng's control. Space, matter, and laws gradually recovered, and the atmosphere in the sky, astral wind clouds, lightning sea, and so on were also condensing again. In less than 10 minutes, the huge hole that had almost destroyed the entire immortal land had been repaired. The sky had completely returned to normal, as if nothing had happened. On the vast land, countless living beings cried tears of joy when they saw the complete sky. They knelt on the ground and kowtowed to the huge figure that had mended the sky. The ancient experts remembered this figure deeply in their hearts. The impression that Kui Ching had left on them was too deep and could never be forgotten. He was powerful and boundless. He did not care about the consequences when he attacked, but he could handle any serious consequences and not let innocent living beings be harmed. Such a person was powerful and strange. To Kui Heng, after mending the sky, the identity of Kui Ching had completely become real. The feedback he received was also incomparably huge, and his cultivation increased by a level. The completion of his new identity also increased his projection from 6 to 7. Not only did this greatly increase his strength, but his life-saving abilities was also much stronger. He had gained a lot. Since his goal of cultivation had been achieved, Kui Heng dispersed his heavenly transformation state and returned to his normal size before arriving in front of Hong Fuguei and the others. Previously, he did not let Hong Fuguei acknowledge him because he was still using Kui Ching's persona at that time to maintain the integrity of his identity. Now that Kui Ching's persona had completely condensed, there was no need to care about this. At this moment, be it Hong Fuguei, Tai Hong, or the human king, they were all deeply shocked. The abilities and power Kui Heng had displayed just now were too powerful even for them. It could even be said to be extremely ridiculous. He was too powerful. Kui Heng only smiled faintly at this and said to Tai Hong, "The human emperor isn't dead yet, but he's already crippled. How you deal with him is up to you. However, he's still useful to me. Don't kill him." With that, a door of light suddenly appeared in front of him. He turned to look at Hong Fuguei and smiled. "Follow me." Then, he walked into the door of light. Hong Fuguei was stunned when he heard this. Then, he just followed and stepped into the door of light, disappearing. Only Tai Hong and the dying human emperor were left looking at each other. That door of light was actually just a cover. It was connected to an independent world that Kui Heng had casually opened up. After Hong Fuguei arrived through the door of light, he asked impatiently, "You're Mr. Kui, right?" As Kui Heng had never admitted this earlier, he did not dare to rashly acknowledge him. "What do you think?" Kui Heng smiled. "Disciple greets, sir." Hong Fuguei was overjoyed. He hurriedly bowed and said respectfully, "Disciple has never forgotten sir's teachings all these years. My life goal has always been sir's guidance." Disciple is bold. Can I request to address you as teacher? Although he had always treated Kui Heng as his teacher, he had never received Kui Heng's acknowledgement, so he only dared to call him sir and did not dare to call him teacher directly. You've said it before. You've never forgotten my teachings and have always taken my guidance as your life goal. Kui Heng personally helped Hong Fugui stand up and asked, "Aren't you my disciple?" "Teacher." "Disciple greets teacher," Hong Fugui shouted excitedly. He was incomparably satisfied. It had been 2,000 years. He could finally address Mr. Kui as teacher. "I'll bring you somewhere." Kui Heng smiled. Then, with a casual wave of his hand, he brought Hong Fugui into the grotto heaven and arrived in front of the 3-story villa. "This is teacher's immortal abode." Hong Fugui was pleasantly surprised. Then, he looked at the vegetable garden not far away and the various fruits and eggs piled up inside. He could not help but sigh. "I didn't expect to be able to return to your place again. It's good that you're back." Kui Heng nodded slightly and continued to lead Hong Fugui forward. He opened the door of the villa and smiled. "To you, this can be considered a revisit." "It's not just revisiting an old place," Hong Fugui said with a sigh. "If I hadn't accidentally entered this place back then and learned the great Tao from teacher, I'm afraid I would have starved to death on the streets long ago. How could there be the current Hong Fugui?" At this point, he paused and revealed a nostalgic expression. He said to Kui Heng, "Teacher, can I eat the same porridge from back then again?" "Haha, of course you can." Kui Heng smiled when he heard this. "Where's the yellow-scarved strongman?" As soon as he finished speaking, a burly man dressed in dark yellow appeared out of thin air. He knelt on one knee in front of Kui Heng and said respectfully, "Greetings, Master Immortal." "Go and cook a pot of porridge," Kui Heng ordered the yellow-scarved strongman. Back in the beginner's space, he had also asked the yellow-scarved strongman to cook. However, the yellow-scarved strongman had already been turned into a true living being by him and left in the heaven realm. The current yellow-scarved strongman was actually an intermediate guardian gifted by the system. It was an upgraded version. In theory, his culinary skills should be better. A moment later, the yellow-scarved strongman finished cooking a pot of porridge. The fragrance filled the air. Hong Fugui scooped a bowl with anticipation. After taking a bite, he said with a smile, "Teacher, this is the taste. It's the taste that saved my life back then. It's also the beginning of you practicing the great Tao in your heart." Kui Heng pointed at the dining room beside him and smiled. "Sit, tell me about your experiences over the years. Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com. 595 Hong Fugui's encounter, news of Jiang Chichi. 595 Hong Fugui's encounter, news of Jiang Chichi. His experiences over the years. Hong Fugui could not help but sigh when he heard this, but he was also a little confused. After pondering for a moment, he said, "Teacher, over the years, I've been to many places and wanted to put to practice the great Tao in my heart, but I always encountered huge resistance. When I was on the Daoju star, I believed that as long as I could smash the old world and establish a new era, I could fulfill the great Tao and fulfill the ideals in my heart. But later on, I realized that I was wrong. The power of a single person can surpass the masses, and allow the strong to rule the world they are in. Therefore, it's unrealistic to rely on the power of the masses to establish an orderly society. I have to be powerful enough to fulfill the great Tao in my heart. Otherwise, all my ideals and plans are useless." Especially after following Hong Ci to Tai Hong Star, it made me recognize this point. It's impossible to truly succeed by relying on will, faith, and gathering the hearts of the people together. Originally, I planned to cultivate to the creator realm on Tai Hong Star. However, after I became a sage, some of my actions caused the dissatisfaction of many mighty figures on Tai Hong Star. All the power in this world belongs to oneself. If one wants to modify the world, one has to be strong enough. Without enough strength, it's just empty talk. Coincidentally, I obtained information about a spatial passageway when I was wandering in the starry skies around Tai Hong Star, so I chose to leave and planned to head to another starfield with very different Tao laws. In that starfield, I found an ancient ruin and obtained a legendary human monarch's treasure, which is this small jade cauldron. As he spoke, he slowly opened his palm. A 3-inch tall jade cauldron kept spinning in his palm. It contained an extremely dense qi of the human Tao. Sacred water light and the flames of civilization were also flickering slightly on it, as if an incomparably powerful human expert was about to appear. This is indeed a powerful treasure. Kui Heng stared at the small jade cauldron and nodded. It should have reached the limit of the 12 true world realms. In terms of strength and aura, this small jade cauldron had far exceeded the limit of the mid-stage soul formation realm. It had even begun to touch the late-stage soul formation realm. If it was before he broke through to the late-stage soul formation realm, he would have to retreat when facing this small jade cauldron. Yes, teacher, you're right. Hong Fugue nodded and said, when I obtained this jade cauldron back then, I also obtained some books that described it. According to the description in the books, this jade cauldron is a treasure that the human monarch carried with him before he attained the Tao. It's the pinnacle weapon among the ranks of the 12 true world realms. If one can completely comprehend the mysteries within, they might be able to step into the so-called Tao realm. It's precisely the traces of power contained in this small cauldron that allowed me to explore my future cultivation path, and it also allowed my cultivation realm to advance by leaps and bounds. In order to understand more about the secrets of this small cauldron and perfect my cultivation, I began to search for secret information about the human monarch. After searching through the 6 star fields, I finally found some clues in a ruin. That legendary human monarch is related to the immortal domains, but the immortal domains have already shattered, and the fragments have become immortal lands. Through this small jade cauldron, I found a small immortal land world. In that immortal land, my cultivation improved further. However, I suddenly feel that there's a gaze paying attention to me from an endless height, as if it wants to absorb and refine me. At that time, I didn't know what it was. I thought that it was a problem with the immortal land, so I left and continued to rely on the power of the small jade cauldron to find another immortal land. In the end, I returned to Taihong Star and discovered a huge void vortex there. I activated the vortex through the small jade cauldron and entered this immortal land. After coming here, I traveled around as an ordinary martial artist and realized that although the cultivation realm of the people here is high, the level of civilization is relatively low. It's a little strange. However, this is only the result of my observation. Teacher, you've taught me that I can only test the truth through practice, so I didn't jump to conclusions. Hence, I went to Wu country's Qingshui Pass to join the army. It was also in Qingshui Pass that I received guidance and learned the cultivation method of true immortals and paramount true immortals. I understood what I encountered in that small immortal land. At that time, I felt that there was definitely something wrong with this cultivation method, but because of the limits of my knowledge and realm, I couldn't reach an accurate conclusion, so I could only continue to search for information about the human monarch. Later on, I went to a few places related to the legends of the human monarch. The central capital royal city was one of them. After I arrived, the human emperor suddenly attacked and captured me. The small jade cauldron did not even have the time to counterattack. The human emperor wanted to possess me and obtain the human monarch's inheritance and treasures, but because of the small jade cauldron on me, he didn't succeed. Later on, I was locked up in that small world by him. After 200 years, he claimed to be prepared and tried to possess me again. However, he didn't know that in the past 200 years, my control over the small jade cauldron had improved. What happened next is what you saw, teacher. Teacher, actually, I have a feeling that there's always a hand pushing me along in the dark. It's like someone was pushing me into this world, but there are no obvious traces. I wonder if it's an illusion. Let's sort it out. Kui Heng thought for a moment and said, the main reason why you entered this immortal land was because of this small jade cauldron. However, you only obtained it because you took the initiative to pursue clues about the human monarch. If we continue to trace the source, you obtained the small jade cauldron because you went to that starfield. The reason why you went to that starfield was because of the information about the spatial passageway. But the reason why you obtained the information about that spatial passageway is because you once traveled the starry skies around Taihong Star. What was the cause of this trip? The starfield Hong Fugui was talking about was one of the two starfields adjacent to the starfield where the Heaven Realm was located. When the Heaven Realm was at its peak, it had attacked that starfield and occupied the Heaven Gate of that starfield. The spatial passageway that Hong Fugui had used was a remnant of that era. However, that was a secret that only experts above the Fourth Heaven Gate realm knew. At that time, Hong Fugui was still a sage and should not have come into contact with this level of information. Moreover, it was a little strange to obtain such information just from traveling. "It's because I met someone," Hong Fugui said in a low voice. "At that time, I was vexed about how to spread the cultivation method I created and often went out for a walk. When I went out for a walk once, I met an old man. He saw through my depression and advised me, suggesting that I could temporarily leave the place of depression and go out to relax. That was why I decided to travel. At that time, I found a ruin in a starry sky around Taihong Star and discovered a spatial passageway to another starfield. If that's the case, there should be something wrong with that old man." Kui Heng nodded and said in a low voice, "Do you remember what he looked like?" "I remember." Hong Fugui nodded and instantly condensed the image of an old man beside him. "It's indeed him." Kui Heng's eyes lit up with a dark yellow light. Through this image, he could actually see the true essence of the old man's appearance. It was Zhu Juntian. Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com. 596 Hong Fugui's Encounter, News of Jiang Chichi, 2. 596 Hong Fugui's Encounter, News of Jiang Chichi, 2. "Teacher, you know this old man?" Hong Fugui asked in surprise. "I suppose." Kui Heng nodded and asked in a low voice, "Do you know the name Zhu Juntian?" "Zhu Juntian?" Hong Fugui was stunned when he heard that. He said in confusion, "I heard from Hong Ci that he was the last ascender before the purple sun heaven collapsed. Is this old man related to him?" Kui Heng was also stunned. Hong Fugui's understanding of Zhu Juntian was really a little ancient, so he shook his head gently. "This old man is Zhu Juntian." Then, he briefly introduced Zhu Juntian. "So it's the artifact spirit of the Six Heaven Gates diagram. But why did he guide me?" Hong Fugui frowned even more when he heard this and said to Kui Heng, "Teacher, I have news about him here." "What news?" Kui Heng asked in surprise. From the looks of it, Hong Fugui did not understand Zhu Juntian, but he seemed to have heard of the Six Heaven Gates diagram. This was very strange. "It's like this," Hong Fugui explained. "When I first came to this immortal land, I encountered a woman. She was looking for the artifact spirit of the Six Heaven Gates diagram. It seemed like it was for something very important. Coincidentally, that woman came from the same starfield as me. It was also for this reason that she noticed me. Unfortunately, before we could talk in detail, she left in a hurry. She calls herself Jiang Hengxia. Teacher, do you have any impression of her?" Kui Heng was stunned when he heard this. He said in surprise, "You met her? What was her state at that time?" "I've seen her before, but we've only chatted briefly 2 or 3 times." Hong Fugui was a little surprised and asked curiously, "Teacher, you know her?" At that time, she was already at the 7th True World realm and her cultivation was far above mine, but she always gave off a feeling of being in a hurry. I didn't expect her to also come to this immortal land. Kui Heng shook his head and sighed softly. "In a sense, she should be your junior sister." "What?" Hong Fugui was stunned and said in surprise, "Could it be that she also came from Daoju Star and accidentally entered this immortal realm?" "That's right." Kui Heng nodded and chuckled. "Perhaps this is fate. Even at my realm, fate is still an unfathomable and unclear concept. Teacher, you should already be in the Dao realm, right?" Hong Fugui asked curiously. "It's said that this is the peak of cultivation. Can't you understand fate?" "Dao realm?" Kui Heng smiled when he heard that. "How much do you know about the Dao realm?" Hong Fugui fell silent when he heard this. Then, he smiled bitterly and said, "I know nothing. I was originally only at the 5th True World realm. After successfully overcoming the human emperor's possession, I'm only at the 10th True World realm. I'm still too far from the Dao realm. I don't know much about the Tao realm either, Kuiheng said in a low voice. However, what I'm sure of is that the Tao realm is definitely not the endpoint of cultivation. After all, the 12 true world realms were only close to the late-stage soul formation realm. The level of the Tao realm was probably equivalent to the late-stage soul formation realm, peak soul formation realm, and return to void realm. Above the return to void realm was the Tao integration realm. Above the Tao integration realm was the tribulation transcendence realm. After the tribulation transcendence realm, one would reach the Mahayana realm. However, the Mahayana realm was only the cultivation realm before immortal ascension. As for the realms after becoming an immortal, he did not know. He could only confirm that the so-called Tao realm was definitely far from the end of cultivation. However, to Hong Fugue, this had another meaning. Teacher's realm is definitely above the 12 true world realms, and he's sure that the Tao realm is not the endpoint of cultivation. But he also said that he doesn't know much about the Tao realm. Could it be? A guess that shocked him appeared in Hong Fugue's heart. Could it be that teacher is actually a divine being who was born with divine powers and was born with a cultivation above the Tao realm? In that case, it's normal for him not to understand the Tao realm. This was because his powers were at a higher level than the Tao realm from birth, so he had never experienced cultivation at the Tao realm level. Kuiheng didn't know what guess Hong Fugue had, but he continued, let's change the topic to Zhu Juntian. Now that we can basically confirm that he guided you, what do you think his goal might be? The human monarch's inheritance and information about the human monarch, Hong Fugue said without thinking. Actually, from the moment I discovered the passageway to another starfield, I had already embarked on the path of exploring the human monarch's secrets. If Zhu Juntian really had a goal for guiding me in this direction, this is most likely the most important thing. Teacher, what should I do next? Should I continue exploring? Is exploring the secrets of the human monarch really the path you want to take? Kuiheng asked with a smile. Hong Fugue felt as if he had been struck by lightning when he heard this. His entire body froze. After a while, he regained his senses and suddenly knelt on the ground. Thank you for your guidance, teacher. I almost went astray. In the beginning, he only treated exploring the secrets of the human monarch as a method to become stronger. He wanted to become stronger so that he could better practice the great Tao in his heart. But gradually, he'd gone astray. Kuiheng's question woke him up. It's good that you've thought it through. Kuiheng helped Hong Fugue up and smiled. However, I'll continue to search for information about the human monarch and see what Zhu Juntian wants to do. Since the human monarch is related to the immortal domains, the best way to explore should be to find the survivors of the immortal domains in this land, especially the Lord of the Immortals. He might know something. But isn't the Lord of the Immortals already? Hong Fugue hesitated. He already knew that the Lord of the Immortals had been beaten to death by the teacher in front of him. One can still be revived after death. Kuiheng chuckled, as if he was talking about the most ordinary thing. Hong Fugue did not know what to say. A moment later, Kuiheng brought Hong Fugue to the sky above the capital of Liang Kingdom. This was the place where he had destroyed the Lord of the Immortals in body and soul. The appearance of Kui Qing again immediately attracted the attention of many experts. Many people's faces turned pale, afraid that Kui Qing had changed his mind and wanted to destroy the world. Some of the immortal experts overseas also noticed the appearance of Kui Qing. Their hearts were filled with anger and hatred, but none of them really dared to avenge the Lord of the Immortals. At this moment, Kui Qing suddenly raised his right hand and formed a seal. His left hand pointed at the place where the Lord of the Immortals had been reduced to ashes as he shouted in a low voice. Awaken. Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com. 597 Resurrection, Descendants of the Human Monarch. 597 Resurrection, Descendants of the Human Monarch. With Kuiheng's shout, a scene that shocked all the experts in the immortal land happened. At the place where the Lord of the Immortals was beaten to death by Kui Qing, an emerald green light suddenly lit up, and extremely dense vitality quickly gathered. The great Tao of heaven and earth immediately appeared. Countless belts of light appeared out of thin air, and countless golden lotus flowers bloomed. A pleasant tune even sounded in the void. It was as if the entire world was celebrating something. At the same time, an aura that had completely disappeared from the world began to gradually recover. It became stronger and clearer. The aura of the Lord of the Immortals. The Lord of the Immortals. The moment the aura of the Lord of the Immortals appeared again, all the experts who were paying attention were stunned. Without exception, they revealed expressions of disbelief and extreme shock. At this moment, everyone understood what Qi Qing was doing. He wanted to revive the Lord of the Immortals. And it seemed to be very successful. He had actually revived an 11th true world realm expert whose body and soul had been destroyed. Seeing such a scene, these experts were first shocked before they felt indescribable fear. What kind of divine power was this? He could actually play with life and death in the palm of his hand. Resurrecting a being whose body and soul had been destroyed had always been considered impossible. Even experts who had walked to the peak of the true world realms could at most create a life that was identical to the dead. However, this living being that had been created was actually only the same as the dead on the surface. The characteristics of his body and soul were completely different, and his memories were completely fabricated by the Creator. It could not be considered a true revival at all. This kind of living being that had been created could be seen through at a glance by people with high cultivation. However, the revival of the Lord of the Immortals was different. This was truly condensing his original body and soul again. Even the immortal domain laws he cultivated were completely identical. The life force that was revealed in the end was no different. A true resurrection. This is a true resurrection. Unbelievable. Is this Qi Qing from the legendary Tao realm? Such methods are unbelievable, many experts exclaimed, and countless living beings were stunned speechless. The strength displayed by Qi Qing once again exceeded their understanding. Chu Han, who had followed Qi Heng to the immortal land, felt his scalp tingle and his heart tremble. He thought to himself, fortunately, I've already submitted early. This is a situation where I can't even control my life and death. It was too terrifying. The Lord of the Immortals felt like he had woken up from a dream. In his dream, he seemed to have been killed by a human called Qi Qing with an extremely terrifying sword light. This made him feel a little ridiculous. How could the human race have such a powerful existence? Moreover, he had already obtained the Blood God Immortal Court flag. Even if it was the human emperor, he could defeat him. It was impossible for a human to kill him. No. He was already at the 10th true world realm. Why would he still have such a dream that made him fall into a daze? Thinking of this, the Lord of the Immortals suddenly woke up. His original blurry will instantly became clear. He subconsciously looked around and realized the surroundings no longer looked like when he was fighting Qi Qing. What did you just do to me? The Lord of the Immortals suddenly turned to look at Qi Heng, but as soon as he spoke, he noticed Hong Fuguei standing at the side and said in shock, "Human Emperor? No, that's not right. Who are you?" Hong Fuguei's current state was very strange. Through the power of the small jade cauldron, he successfully resisted the human emperor's possession and he'd absorbed all the cultivation of the human emperor and reached the 10th true world realm. However, in reality, he had not cultivated to this realm, so the aura of power all over his body was extremely similar to that of the human emperor. He had to wait until his cultivation increased before he could completely refine this power and make it his own. At that time, the aura he revealed would be his own. "It's not the time for you to ask questions yet," Qi Heng said indifferently. He said to the Lord of the Immortals, "Follow me. I have something to ask you, so I used the resurrection technique to revive you." Resurrection? Resurrection? The Lord of the Immortals was shocked when he heard this. His first reaction was disbelief and he wanted to refute. But at this moment, he suddenly trembled. The scene of a terrifying sword light slashing at him involuntarily appeared in his mind, and an extremely strong sense of death immediately surged. Tao Life Sword. Ah! The Lord of the Immortals screamed and retreated repeatedly. He looked at Qi Heng in fear and said with a trembling voice, You really killed me? What else?" Qi Heng chuckled. "Follow me." "No. The Lord of the Immortals suddenly roared angrily, and his entire body lit up with an incomparably dazzling light. The immortal domain laws in his body appeared one after another, and they became incomparably manic, as if they were about to explode. This Lord of the Immortals actually wanted to self-destruct. Why bother? Kui Heng shook his head and sighed. Then, he raised his hand and pointed. His dharmic powers transformed into a golden rope that instantly bound the Lord of the Immortals, preventing him from moving at all. The dazzling light and the immortal domain laws that were about to explode were directly suppressed. The Lord of the Immortals immediately lost the power to self-destruct. This time, the Lord of the Immortals was completely silent. He lowered his head and followed behind Kui Heng. At this moment, he could clearly sense that he was not worth mentioning in front of Kui Ching. He was like an ant, and could be easily played by him. He could not even decide his own life or death. Where did this Kui Ching come from? How could he have such terrifying strength? Then, the Lord of the Immortals left with Kui Heng and Hong Fugui, leaving the experts who were paying attention to the situation here speechless for a long time. From now on, this world would probably change hands. In the former human emperor palace, Tai Hong sat here with the crippled human emperor. They looked at each other in silence. At this moment, Tai Hong seemed to have suddenly sensed something and hurriedly said to the human emperor beside him, "Exalted Kui Ching is back. Hurry up and welcome him with me." The expression on the human emperor's face turned green and purple when he heard this, but he had no choice. He could only follow Tai Hong out of the palace and kowtow to the sky to welcome Kui Heng. A moment later, Kui Heng and Hong Fugui brought the Lord of the Immortals over. "Get up." Kui Heng glanced at the two of them indifferently and walked into the palace. However, after taking a few steps, he said, "Human Emperor, follow me. Tai Hong can just wait outside." "Yes," the human emperor said very respectfully. He was a sensible person and knew that he could only cooperate at this time. Otherwise, he would definitely end up in an extremely miserable state. Hence, only Tai Hong was left standing alone outside the palace. He was at a loss. In the palace, Kui Heng sat in the main seat while Hong Fugui stood behind. The human emperor and the Lord of the Immortals stood with their heads lowered respectfully. "There's no need to be nervous." Kui Heng looked at the two of them and smiled. "I called you here just to ask you some things. How much do you know about the human monarch of the immortal domains?" Exalted immortal, even in the immortal domains, the human monarch is a legendary existence, the Lord of the Immortals immediately replied. "However, before the immortal domains shattered, I saw the descendants of the human monarch. Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com. 598-36 Heavens, Jade Cauldron Tribulation. 598-36 Heavens, Jade Cauldron Tribulation. Descendants of the human emperor? Kui Heng was a little surprised when he heard this. He smiled with interest and said, "A legendary existence like him actually still has descendants of his bloodline left." The Lord of the Immortals was an expert at the 10th True World realm. He had lived for at least tens of millions of years. For him to regard someone as a legend, how many years ago was this person from? He was too old. After the source of the bloodline disappeared, could the family bloodline really be passed down for such a long time? Exalted immortal, it's like this. The Lord of the Immortals hurriedly explained, the human monarch's bloodline has actually already fused into the bodies of all humans. His Tao is also engraved in the laws of the 6 immortal domains. Therefore, every human has a chance to awaken the bloodline of the human monarch and obtain the power of the human monarch from the laws of the immortal domains. Once they awaken the bloodline of the human monarch, they will have the body of the human monarch and will be called the descendants of the human monarch. His bloodline had fused into the bodies of all the humans. Kui Heng raised his eyebrows slightly when he heard this. He knew very well that he could not do such a thing now. How broad was the concept of all humans? Is it just the 6 immortal domains and the humans within their influence, or does it include the endless starry skies in the vast universe? Kui Heng asked in a low voice. There's a difference. The Lord of the Immortals said in confusion, Aren't the 6 immortal domains and the range of their influence the entire universe? I heard that outside this range, there's only an endless void and nothing else.
Oh.
Kui Heng frowned and asked, how big is the influence of the 6 immortal domains? What level is the strongest among them? Although he had already heard about the 6 immortal domains from Chu Han, most of the information was Chu Han's own guess. It might not be true. In Chu Han's description, the 6 immortal domains covered the entire universe. However, Kui Heng did not believe it. He did not expect the Lord of the Immortals, a refugee of the immortal domains, to say the same. However, he still did not believe it. The universe was vast and endless. How could a mere 6 immortal domains cover such a huge area? After all, the size of the Great Yang Holy Land that covered 80 million light-years of space was only a drop in the ocean in the entire universe. Even according to the estimation of the universe where Earth was in his previous life, the diameter of the observable universe alone was 90 billion light-years, and the places that could not be observed were far more vast. If the 6 immortal domains could affect the entire universe, how terrifying a world would it be? Could the so-called immortal kings be in the immortal domains? For a moment, many thoughts flashed through Kui Heng's mind. I don't know, the Lord of the Immortals said with some shame. To be honest, exalted immortal, before the immortal domains shattered, I was only an 8th true world realm cultivator. It was only after obtaining some scattered treasures after the immortal domains shattered that I was able to glimpse the mysteries of the 9th realm. After a long time of accumulation, I finally reached the 10th realm. In the first heaven of the Xian immortal domain, a cultivation realm at the 8th true world realm is only barely enough for one to be considered a slightly famous expert. The information I could obtain is also relatively basic. I can't come into contact with any deep secrets at all. Therefore, when the descendant of the human monarch awakened, it directly alarmed the entire first heaven. At that time, I happened to be nearby, so I went over to take a look. The first heaven of the Xian immortal domain. Kui Heng's eyes narrowed slightly as he asked, is the Xian immortal domain the name of your immortal domain? How many heavens is an immortal domain divided into? The Lord of the Immortals was clearly stunned. He was a little confused by the question. He did not understand how such an unbelievably powerful expert did not even know about this. Could he be an expert born after the immortal domains shattered? If that was the case, what kind of ridiculous cultivation speed was this? However, this emotion only lasted for an instant. The Lord of the Immortals quickly recovered and continued, Exalted Immortal, the Xian immortal domain is the immortal domain I came from. Apart from it, there are also the Yu immortal domain, the Yang immortal domain, the Kang immortal domain, the Yang immortal domain, and the Bian immortal domain, a total of 6 immortal domains. Every immortal domain has 6 heavens. Therefore, the 6 immortal domains have a total of 36 heavens. Although the names of the 6 immortal domains are different, their overall strength should be roughly the same. The 6 heavens in each immortal domain are similarly divided. The higher the heaven, the stronger it is. The first heaven is the weakest and lowest level of the immortal domains. The cultivators inside are not even qualified to understand the situation of the second heaven. Before the immortal domains shattered, the strongest person in the first heaven was only at the 10th true world realm. Exalted Immortal, the human monarch you're asking about, is a legendary supreme existence that stands above the 6th heaven. He disappeared a long time ago, and no one even knows how long he has been gone. There's very little information about the human monarch in the first heaven. Perhaps there might be clues in some ancient ruins, but now that the immortal domains have been shattered, those ruins have also been scattered throughout the universe and are difficult to find. Exalted Immortal, if you want to know more about the human monarch, it's best if you can find the immortal land world formed by the higher heavens fragments of the immortal domains. They should know more. Actually, when the immortal domains shattered, the human monarch had reappeared. At this moment, the silent human emperor suddenly spoke. What? The Lord of the Immortals looked at the human emperor beside him in disbelief. That's impossible. The human monarch has disappeared for countless years. How did he suddenly appear? You guys who call yourselves immortals naturally can't see the human monarch. The human emperor sneered and said respectfully to Kui Heng, exalted immortal, before the Fengyuan Holy Land was devoured by the immortal domain fragments, I saw the human monarch in my dream. Ridiculous. We call ourselves immortals just to differentiate ourselves from you. We've always been humans, the Lord of the Immortals said in a low voice. Heh. The human emperor ignored the Lord of the Immortals and continued to say to Kui Heng, in my dream, the human monarch taught me a technique and said that a great tribulation would descend when the Jade Cauldron appears in the future. Jade Cauldron? This time, not only was Kui Heng stunned, but Hong Fugue, who was standing behind him, was also stunned. Both of them looked at the human emperor. In the current situation, it was impossible for the human emperor to lie, nor could he hide any information. What great tribulation? Kui Heng asked in a low voice. The tribulation of the destruction of the human race, the human emperor said word by word. Only by destroying the Jade Cauldron and occupying the body of the person holding it can the calamity be eliminated. Is this the reason why you attacked me the moment you saw the Jade Cauldron? Hong Fugue frowned. Even if there's a reason, his selfishness is even stronger, Kui Heng said indifferently. The human emperor's expression changed slightly when he heard this. He could only lower his head, but he still added, exalted immortal, I'm not lying. You should be able to tell. You might not be lying, but, the Lord of the Immortals looked at the human emperor in disdain and sneered, can you be sure that the human monarch you dreamed of is real? Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com. 599 Projection in the Depths of Memory. 599 Projection in the Depths of Memory. With your cultivation realm and knowledge at that time, how could you confirm that it was the human monarch? The Lord of the Immortals first mocked him before saying to Kui Heng, exalted immortal, perhaps the Great Tribulation might indeed exist, but the way to eliminate the Great Tribulation shouldn't be to destroy the Jade Cauldron and occupy the body of the owner of the Jade Cauldron. I'm afraid it's the opposite. If we want to resist the Great Tribulation, we should better protect the owner of the Jade Cauldron and prevent the Jade Cauldron from suffering any damage. That is nonsense. The human emperor was naturally not to be outdone. Although he no longer had his cultivation, he would not be suppressed by the Lord of the Immortals in front of Kui Heng. You're just guessing. It's much better than your information from a dream. The Lord of the Immortals sneered. The two experts who had once ruled the earth and sea of this immortal land actually started bickering again like this. All right. Kui Heng waved his hand and said in a low voice, since the two of you are arguing endlessly, I'll just flip through it myself. With that, he stretched out his hands at the same time and grabbed at the human emperor and the Lord of the Immortals. Their argument stopped abruptly. They both froze there, unable to move, their faces filled with fear. In the next moment, they felt their souls become weak and were pulled out of their bodies by an extremely powerful force. Then, they lost consciousness. Soul search. Tai Hong, who was at the entrance of the palace, saw this scene and felt his scalp tingle. An indescribable fear immediately filled his heart. Although he had long known that Kui Heng's strength was powerful and profound, and he could even ignore the rules of the true world realm that the soul could not be breached, he still felt an unprecedented fear when he saw it at such a close distance. Especially since he was searching the souls of two 10th true world realm experts at the same time. During the process of soul searching, one had to face a huge amount of information. Moreover, they had to organize and categorize it. At the same time, they had to pay attention to screening the information they wanted to find. It was extremely tedious and difficult. Kui Qing could actually search the souls of two people at the same time, and they were both experts who had lived for tens of millions of years. The memories contained in their souls were so dense, but he could actually read and screen them together. It was too terrifying. Such powerful soul power was simply unheard of and unimaginable. It was too incredible. Actually, to Kui Heng, this was not a difficult matter. The 10th true world realm was very weak to him. Not to mention searching the souls of two people at the same time, it was very easy for him to search thousands of souls at the same time. After Kui Heng prepared 7 projections, he began to explore the memories of the human emperor and the Lord of the Immortals. He was a little surprised by the results of his soul search. The former focused on information about the human monarch, while the latter focused on understanding the immortal domains. The memories of the human emperor were quite long. Long before the immortal domains shattered, the human emperor had already existed. However, at that time, he was only an 8th realm true immortal and was far from being as powerful as he was now. Even after the destruction of the immortal domains and the birth of this immortal land, he was not particularly remarkable. He could only be considered one of the many leaders. However, later on, he obtained some inheritance from the illusory images left behind by the human monarch. His strength advanced by leaps and bounds, and he quickly became the strongest among the many leaders. He gradually became a king of the human race and was called the human emperor. At this moment, Kui Heng's reading of the human emperor's memories was still very smooth. However, just as he discovered the human monarch phantom in the human emperor's memories, the human emperor's sea of memories suddenly surged like boiling water. Countless memories and information suddenly became incomparably chaotic, gathering into a torrent of information without any pattern that surged towards Kui Heng. At the source of this flood of information stood an incomparably majestic figure. His face was blurry, and his entire body was enveloped in purple light, emitting an incomparably noble and mysterious aura. Around this figure was sacred water light, and the flame of civilization. Scenes of the rise of the human race condensed into lights and shadows that appeared behind him. It was extremely similar to the scene when Hong Fugui resisted the human emperor's possession. However, the phenomenon around this figure was purer, more condensed, and stronger, giving off the feeling that he was the source of this power. The chaotic flood of information could not affect Kui Heng at all. In an instant, it was sorted out by Kui Heng's divine sense and turned into ordinary memory information. At the same time, Kui Heng's divine sense also noticed the figure in the depths of the human emperor's memory. Then, he immediately began to investigate this figure. This figure was clearly alive and not just a memory. The moment Kui Heng circulated his divine sense to investigate it, an incomparably powerful aura suddenly erupted from his body. Boom! An earth-shattering bang exploded in the palace in the central capital. The power of the sacred water light and the flame of civilization actually rushed out from the top of the human emperor's head. This immediately attracted Hong Fugui's attention. Could something have happened? However, he quickly realized that both the loud bang and this sudden phenomenon were limited to the palace and did not overflow. Even Tai Hong, who was standing at the entrance of the palace, did not notice the abnormality there. Thank you for reading on my box novel. 600 projection in the depths of memory. 600 projection in the depths of memory. Not to mention outside. However, the abnormality of the human emperor still surprised Hong Fugui. He thought to himself, how can the power of the human monarch's inheritance appear on his body? Could it be that what he said is true? If what the human emperor said was true, then wasn't the Jade Cauldron Great Tribulation also true? Thinking of this, Hong Fugui could not help but frown. At this moment, in the human emperor's spiritual world, the figure had already stopped erupting with power and revealed a surprised expression. He was still trying to investigate Kui Heng's divine sense. The power that erupted from him just now did not affect Kui Heng's divine sense at all. This made him feel very surprised. Who is this person? His soul power is actually so terrifying. Moreover, what cultivation realm is he at? I can't even estimate it. How can such a thing happen? He's also from the Tao realm and his realm is not inferior to mine. This immortal land was only evolved from a large fragment of the first heaven. It's not even perfected by the laws of the immortal domain. It doesn't have the conditions to allow someone to cultivate to the Tao realm at all. Where did such a person come from? At the same time, Kui Heng was sizing up this mysterious figure hidden in the memories of the human emperor and investigating his information. His current encounter was actually one of the reasons why he had tried his best to avoid soul-searching in the past. In the memories of experts, it was very likely that there was a secret that they themselves did not know. There might even be a mental imprint of another expert. Once the soul search was carried out, it would trigger this imprint and even the expert who placed the imprint. This mysterious figure that could wield the power of the human monarch was clearly an imprint left in the memories of the human emperor. After sensing that Kui Heng was conducting a soul search, his main body was instantly alarmed and descended into the memories of the human emperor, turning the original imprint into a projection with true power. Just the strength of this projection had reached the 12th true world realm. His main body must be even stronger. Who was he? Could it really be that legendary human monarch? After sensing the other party's strength, neither side continued to attack. However, the mysterious figure was afraid of Kui Heng's strength. Kui Heng wanted to investigate this person's identity and confirm if he was really the legendary human monarch. After all, it was only a projection equivalent to the 12th true world realm. To Kui Heng, it was not worth mentioning. While confronting this projection, he did not stop searching the Lord of the Immortal's soul. Junior, do you know who you're spying on? At this moment, the projection suddenly spoke. Its voice was filled with a holy and dignified charm. It was high and mighty as it questioned Kui Heng. It could even be said to be an interrogation. Who are you? Kui Heng's expression was indifferent as he said in a low voice, the owner of this soul once said that he had seen the human monarch in his dream. Was it you who was pretending to be the human monarch? Pretending? The projection seemed to feel that it had been greatly insulted. The phenomenon around it appeared again, stirring the human emperor's soul and displaying its huge power. Junior, if my true body is here, I will definitely kill you. Then it's a pity that your true body is not here. Kui Heng sneered. If your true body was here, I would have killed you. Who are you? Why are you pretending to be the human monarch and spreading falsehoods? After a few words, he was certain that this fellow was definitely not the human monarch. It was impossible for the legendary human monarch to be like this. Of course, if the legendary human monarch was really like this, there was nothing to be afraid of. Hehe, you don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. The projection let out a disdainful sneer and said to Kui Heng, Junior, you ruined my plan, so you'll definitely die. In a few days, my true body will descend and kill you. With that, the projection began to fade rapidly, and the power on the human emperor's body began to fade at an extremely fast speed. Clearly, this figure was withdrawing the power attached to the projection. Do you think you can come and go as you please? Kui Heng snorted. Then, his divine sense moved slightly and instantly sealed the human emperor's soul. No power could enter or leave. They were all sealed here. Impudent. The projection roared angrily. He could not escape at all in the face of such a divine sense seal. He could only leave all his strength here. However, he did not wait for death. Instead, he circulated all the power contained in this projection and rushed towards Kui Heng's divine sense. Battles at the soul level were usually even stranger and more unfathomable than battles in reality. However, this projection did not use any soul secret techniques and only purely erupted with power to attack. This was because he knew very well that with the power of his soul projection, he would definitely lose. He did not even have a chance to struggle. The only outcome was destruction. Instead of being destroyed by others, it was better to destroy himself. However, just as the power of this projection was mobilized, an extremely powerful divine sense power suddenly enveloped it in surprise. In an instant, the already extremely violent power of the soul became calm and the attack was eliminated. The soul power of a 12th true world realm cultivator was too insignificant against Kui Heng. He could control it at will. The other party could not even destroy himself. The projection had already recognized this. He gave up on attacking and stood on the spot, his entire body emitting anger. He said in a low voice, Junior, you will pay the price for what you did today. With that, the projection quickly became illusory and disappeared in the blink of an eye, leaving only the power that was originally attached to this body. However, the projection itself was nowhere to be seen. He's quite decisive. Kui Heng sneered. The reason why the projection disappeared just now was not because it had escaped. Instead, the main body had chosen to give up on this projection and completely cut off all connections. This way, the projection would lose its foundation and directly disappear. It could not be traced either. However, This was equivalent to losing soul power equivalent to the 12th true world realm. The loss was probably not small. I wonder how powerful this human monarch's descendant's true body is. Kui Heng thought to himself. Actually, before the projection escaped, he had already found out the identity of the main body of the projection in the memories of the Lord of the Immortals. It was the human monarch's descendant he had seen in the Xian immortal domain. It was this human monarch's descendant who pretended to be the human monarch. When the immortal domains shattered, he took the opportunity to invade the human emperor's dream and created the rumor of the so-called Jade Cauldron tribulation. The small Jade Cauldron is a personal treasure of the human monarch before he attained the Tao. Now that it has been obtained by Fugui, he is already on the path to obtaining the human monarch's inheritance. This human monarch's descendant is doing this because he wants to kill martial artists of the same path? Kui Heng was a little puzzled. But what's the meaning of doing this? Could it be that there's a limit to the number of people allowed to walk this path? Is it a fight to the death? In a vast world, 5 continents floated above the vast ocean. The largest continent was called the Central Plains. In the center of the Central Plains, an incomparably magnificent palace was built. Inside lived a king of gods, a lord of immortals, the ancestor of the human race. He was known as the ruler of all human-shaped living beings in the world. He had existed since the creation of the world. He was the first human in the world and was also an ancestor of humanity. No one dared to be disrespectful to this divine king, immortal monarch, and human ancestor. Other than a few people with noble statuses, they were not qualified to come into contact with that palace, let alone see the great existence living inside. Therefore, in that palace, there was only one person most of the time. No one knew what he would do in the palace, and no one dared to pry. Rumble. On this day, dark clouds gathered in the sky above the noblest palace in this world. The sky sank, as if the sky was about to collapse. It gave off an extremely oppressive feeling. Countless people noticed the changes in the palace, but no one dared to investigate it. Just as everyone was feeling fear, a voice suddenly came from the palace. It was filled with anger and hatred, as if it was gritted teeth. If you stop my great Tao, I won't rest until you die. Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com. 601 A huge enough stage, new fake self. 601 A huge enough stage, new fake self. After the human monarch's projection disappeared, Kui Heng ended the soul search. Then, he released the souls of the human emperor and lord of the immortals and let them return to their normal state. However, at this moment, the two of them no longer had the demeanor of arguing from before. They lowered their heads, their faces extremely pale, and their bodies trembled slightly. Clearly, they were extremely terrified and uneasy. The experience of having their souls searched almost shattered their spirits. Especially the human emperor. Previously, the battle between the descendant of the human monarch and Kui Heng's divine sense had happened in his soul sea. He had experienced the entire process. He once again felt Kui Heng's strength and invincibility. Kui Heng ignored the two of them and went straight to Hong Fugui's side. He smiled and said, "The person who pretended to be the human monarch and told the human emperor about the so-called Great Tribulation of the Jade Cauldron was the human monarch descendant that the Lord of the Immortals had seen. This person's cultivation realm should have already surpassed the 12 true world realms and stepped into the Tao realm. It's very likely that he's pursuing the human monarch's cultivation fruit. The human monarch's cultivation fruit is most likely unique. There can only be one at any point in time. He might want to use this opportunity to eliminate those who will compete with him to protect his cultivation fruit. It's actually that human monarch descendant." Hong Fugui was a little surprised when he heard this. He frowned slightly, then smiled. Does he think that the wielder of the Jade Cauldron will pose a threat to his pursuit of the human monarch's cultivation fruit? If that's really the case, then he's actually overthinking. Although I'm indeed searching for the power of the human monarch, I don't have any intention of pursuing the human monarch's cultivation technique. To Hong Fugui, pursuing the power of the human monarch had always been a path he took to better practice the great Tao in his heart. It was not the final pursuit. Although he had almost gone astray during this process, after receiving Kui Heng's guidance, he had already returned to the right path and knew better what path he was taking. Even so, in his opinion, you still represent a huge threat. Kui Heng smiled and said, before he escaped, he even said ruthlessly that he wanted me to pay the price, as if he wanted his true body to descend. He wants you to pay the price. Hong Fugue was stunned for a moment before he couldn't help but laugh. Ha ha ha, teacher, if he really does this, I'll wonder if the power of the human monarch is really that strong. That's true. The smile on Kui Heng's face deepened. He doesn't even know the exact situation here and what kind of experts there are. If he comes over with his true body, there's really something wrong with his head. Yes, I think so too. Hong Fugue nodded and said, Teacher, I think that the human monarch's descendant will still come. However, he will most likely have to wait until he understands the situation here and your strength before he can come over. These are not simple matters. We'll probably have to wait for a long time. Do you want him to come over, or do you not want him to come? Kui Heng asked Hong Fugue with a smile. It's best if he doesn't come. Hong Fugue shook his head gently and smiled. Teacher, you know that I'm not a belligerent person, and I don't want to fight meaningless battles. Moreover, I haven't even stabilized my strength at the 10th True World realm, so I'm not his match. However, if that fellow really comes, I want to talk to him. I want to ask this descendant of the human monarch what he understands about the path of the human monarch and what he thinks. To me, this is even more important than obtaining the power of the human monarch. Yes, this is a very good direction. At that time, I'll help you capture him. Kui Heng nodded slightly. Thank you, teacher. Hong Fugue bowed respectfully. What are your plans next? Kui Heng asked. Just as you guessed, that human monarch's descendant shouldn't be coming anytime soon. There must be something you want to do. I'll refine the power I obtained from the human emperor first and consolidate the cultivation realm of the 10th True World realm. Then, I plan to unify and adjust this immortal land. You finally have a chance to practice the great Tao in your heart, right? Kui Heng smiled. Yes. Hong Fugue nodded solemnly and said with some emotion, I've failed too many times along the way. This time, with your help, I really have a chance to try. How do you plan to experiment? Kui Heng asked. I'll unify the world first. Hong Fugue clearly had planned for this long ago. He replied without thinking, currently, there are many countries in this world, and they are constantly fighting each other. Be it the ordinary people or martial arts experts, they are all suffering. I've traveled to various countries and lived with ordinary people. I've seen many things. This world can't continue to linger in this state of chaos. Otherwise, the ordinary people at the bottom will not be able to survive. The ordinary people of the immortal land also have cultivation and are much stronger than the people in the starry skies of the ordinary universe. As long as they lived to 10,000 years old normally, they would have the strength of a limitless golden immortal and could be considered an adult. However, because these people were born in the immortal land and were affected by the incomplete laws of the immortal domain, their bodies are different from the people in the starry skies of the universe. Before cultivating to the 8th realm of the immortal world, they still have to eat to maintain the vitality in their body. If they did not eat for a long time, the power in their body might dissipate because of hunger, and their soul would dissipate until they died. Therefore, the ordinary people in this world generally referred to those who had yet to reach the 8th realm of the immortal world. These ordinary people's cultivation realms were low, so they could only follow the crowd. If society was stable, their lives would be stable. If society was unstable, their lives would be unstable. The lives of the ordinary people who lived at the border would be in constant turmoil. Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com. 602 A huge enough stage, new fake self, 2. 602 A huge enough stage, new fake self, 2. If they encountered a prolonged battle, these ordinary people might lose their source of food. The consequences could be imagined. However, they were powerless to change this situation. The source of the difficulties for the ordinary people was the overlords of the various countries who needed to seize more land continuously to connect with other immortal lands to refine their bodies and complete the immortal domain laws they cultivated. As long as this need existed, it was impossible for the disputes between the countries to stop. It was almost impossible for the commoners to break away from their identity as an ordinary person through cultivation. Ever since the humans chased the immortals out and the human emperor conferred titles to the vassal kingdoms, the initial human experts had begun to strictly control high-level cultivation methods. Moreover, every country has set extremely harsh punishments to prohibit ordinary people from learning high-level cultivation techniques. Only the descendants of these experts and those who had obtained their recognition could obtain a high-level cultivation method. Otherwise, they would violate the law and suffer extremely harsh punishments. They might even be directly executed. As time passed, more and more descendants of experts appeared. These people who could cultivate and have powerful strength had already infiltrated various industries. Even the most ordinary soldiers in the army were nobles who could cultivate high-level martial techniques. Ordinary people could only be considered the lowest class of humans. It was extremely difficult to live. This situation had been going on for too long. Hong Fugue wanted to make some changes. All right, focus on the unification first. Kui Heng nodded and said in a low voice, only after unification can you better coordinate the overall situation and carry out comprehensive transformations of this deformed immortal land. Yes, teacher, that's what I intend to do. Hong Fugue nodded and said, I have to unify these countries first before I can begin to practice the great Tao in my heart. What do you plan to do? Kui Heng asked. These countries have been opposing each other for too long. Be it the martial Tao experts or ordinary people, they all have a blood feud with the other party. Such a situation is not easy to resolve. Unify the majority and attack the minority, Hong Fugue said firmly. In this world, the strength of the majority might not be stronger than the minorities. Kui Heng chuckled. I understand, but since I'm on the side of the majority will definitely be stronger than the minorities, Hong Fugue said solemnly. Teacher, I think that if all the power belongs to one person, the laws of the world will operate according to that person's will. Since I want to bring changes to this world, I have to let myself first grasp powerful strength. Then, I'll use this power to unite the majority and attack the minority. There's nothing wrong with this train of thought, but I still have something to ask you. Kui Heng's expression became serious as he said in a low voice, since the power already belongs to you, and you alone can attack the minorities, why do you still need to unify the majority? Because my original intention to obtain power is for this goal. It's a great wish in my heart, and it's also a great Tao that I want to practice. Hong Fugue revealed a gentle smile and bowed respectfully to Kui Heng. Thank you for your guidance, teacher. That's good. Kui Heng smiled. The few questions he had just asked were actually to help Hong Fugue sort out his thoughts and let him know better what the path he wanted to take was like. Then, Kui Heng said to Hong Fugue, I'll leave the Lord of the Immortals and the Human Emperor to you. It's up to you to decide if you want to kill them or cripple them, or keep them by your side as advisors. I'll enter seclusion for a period of time next and won't see anyone. Before I come out of seclusion, unless you encounter something especially important, don't disturb me. Yes, teacher. Hong Fugue bowed respectfully. In the Grotto Heaven Tao Palace, Kui Heng sat cross-legged. Beside him stood 7 figures. They were all his fake selves. He had already refined 7 fake versions of himself into reality. Every figure was a true life form, but they were also an extension of Kui Heng's existence. As long as they were around, Kui Heng could descend with his true body at any time. When he had enough fake selves refined into real existences, he would be able to be everywhere in the truest sense. It was not a quick teleportation technique. Instead, he could exist in different places at the same time. This was the true meaning of being everywhere. Kui Qing's identity has already become a real existence. Next, I have to design a new fake self. Kui Heng thought to himself, I still have to make it different from the real me. Kui Qing was rash and unrestrained, in direct contradiction to my caution. However, He did not show much of his flamboyance. Even if he showed a flamboyant side, it was covered up by his overly powerful strength. Then this new fake self can be wanton and ostentatious, but not overly powerful. He will be someone with a meticulous personality, a person who makes full preparation for everything. The identity of this fake self can participate in the process of fugue, preparing to unify the various countries. This is a huge matter that is enough to affect the entire immortal land. If I can refine a fake self into reality through this matter, the cognitive feedback I can obtain should not be low, and my cultivation will increase greatly. If a fake identity wanted to become real, it needed to obtain the cognitive feedback of others. Due to the difference the fake identity had with the real body, there would be a difference in the strength of this cognitive feedback. If the fake self had the identity of an ordinary person, even if he refined this fake self into reality, it would not bring much cognitive feedback, and his cultivation would not increase much. However, if it was like the fake identity Kui Ching from before who changed the situation of the entire immortal land with powerful might, the cognitive feedback and cultivation realm increase brought about by refining it into reality would be huge. Therefore, to Kui Heng, the best way was to choose a stage large enough. Then, he would use his fake identity to stand on the stage and obtain enough world-shaking achievements. This way, the fake identity would be remembered until the fake became real. The next biggest stage is Fugue's unification of the world. Kui Heng thought to himself, what kind of identity can I use to participate in this process? If I want the world to remember my fake identity and eventually refine the fake into reality, I have to play a huge role in this process. This requires resolving enough predicaments and conflicts. What is the biggest and most widespread dilemma and conflict that Fugue will face when unifying the various countries? He thought for a moment and had an answer. After personally witnessing Kui Ching's battle prowess and the relationship between Kui Ching and the nobles, the rulers of the various countries should not have much vigor left. It's not difficult to unite them and take away their position as rulers. Even if these rulers have any objections, they can just be killed directly. There's no predicament. The real problem is still how to unite the majority. The war between the countries has lasted for too long. The hatred between the different countries has been imprinted in everyone's bones. Even ordinary people have this emotion. The unification of the world means that they will become the citizens of a country with the people of other countries. They have to be united with those who have deep-rooted hatred for them. Just thinking about it is unacceptable. Moreover, it's very difficult to trust these people who have a blood feud with each other if they gather together, let alone think that their future is safe and stable. They would be worried about getting stabbed in the back all the time. Therefore, the biggest problem in the unification plan is building up the basic trust between these ordinary people, making them acknowledge each other, and making them acknowledge that unifying the various countries is a thing that benefits everyone. But what identity is the most suitable for me to do these things? Thank you for reading on my box novel. 603 Marshall Dow Academy, Education. 603 Marshall Dow Academy, Education. 100 years passed quickly. In the past 100 years, Hong Fugue had not begun to unify the world. Instead, he had been refining the power of the human emperor accumulated in his body to stabilize his cultivation realm. This power belonged to a single person's world. If one wanted to modify the rules of a world with the intention of changing the world and establishing new rules, they had to have enough strength. However, although Hong Fugue had not begun to unify the immortal land, he had organized the disputes between the overlords of the 7 kingdoms. Moreover, every 10 years, he would ask them to report to the central capital's imperial city and report on the results of managing the country in the past 10 years. In this way, although the world had yet to be unified, the lives of ordinary low-level humans were getting better and better. The entire immortal land had entered an unprecedented period of peace. At this moment, in the human emperor palace, Hong Fugue was reading the reports sent by the various countries. He realized that the various places were flourishing, and the lives of ordinary people were getting better and better. They're all thriving. Hong Fugue smiled and closed the report. Then, he looked at Wang Ren, who was standing at the side. What do you think of the current situation in the world? This Wang Ren was the former human emperor. Now, Hong Fugui had already kept him by his side as a minister to assist in political affairs. The Lord of the Immortals also used the alias Zhuxian, but he did not hold any positions in the capital. He was mainly in charge of dealing with the immortal race. If Hong Fugui wanted to reform this immortal land, he could not just unify the land. He had to include the vast sea as well. At this moment, Wang Ren was standing beside Hong Fugui. Hong Fugui had already told him about the current situation of the 7 kingdoms in the world and the Chen and Jing kingdoms. This situation where the people of the 9 countries were living and working in peace made him a little worried. Your Majesty, in the past 100 years, the various countries have stopped fighting, and the lives of ordinary people have become stable, Wang Ren said in a low voice. I'm afraid this is not conducive to your plan of unification. As Hong Fugui's minister, he naturally knew about Hong Fugui's plan. Moreover, in the past 100 years or so, he had already been convinced by Hong Fugui and began to sincerely help him. Of course, he was also afraid of Kui Qing's power. Therefore, after realizing that the current situation of the 9 countries might cause difficulties for Hong Fugui's plan, he immediately became worried. Oh, you mean that in order to unify the world, I should intensify the previous conflicts between the various countries and make it even more difficult for ordinary people to live? Hong Fugui's eyes narrowed slightly as he shook his head gently and said, the reason why I want to unify the world is because I want the ordinary people at the bottom to live a better life. How can I push them into the sea of suffering for the sake of unification? I've spoken out of place. Wang Ren hurriedly bowed and apologized. There's no need. Hong Fugui casually raised his hand and stopped Wang Ren. He said indifferently, I know what you mean, and I also know that you're worried that my unification plan will be affected. Moreover, in the past 100 years, I've rarely spoken to you. It's normal for you to not agree with my opinion, so I don't blame you. But if there's a next time, I'll report your deeds to teacher. Thank you, Your Majesty. Wang Ren was instantly grateful. He knew very well that the reason why he could live until now was because he was still useful to Kui Qing and Hongwu. If he was useless, he would definitely die. Clearly, those who could not understand the true thoughts and intentions of the higher-ups were useless people. This time, I'll make it clear to you. Remember it in your heart. Hong Fugui stood up and walked to the door of the palace. He stood with his hands behind his back and seemed to be looking at the endless land in front of him. The lives of the people of the 9 countries are very stable now. They're much stronger than before. You're right in this regard. But living a stable life doesn't mean that there won't be resentment in their hearts. There will still be people who complain, suffer, or are dissatisfied with the current situation. In fact, there will always be conflicts between 2 groups. They are 2 completely different classes with clear differences in status, and the passage between classes has been closed. You mean, at this moment, Wang Ren finally understood what Hong Fugui meant and said in realization, although the lives of ordinary people are stable on the surface, compared to them, the pressure from above still exists. Moreover, this oppression is eternal. It's impossible for there to be any turning point because ordinary people can't obtain normal cultivation methods. There's no possibility of overturning this oppression. As long as the people in the immortal land reached adulthood, they would become limitless golden immortals. There were also basic martial techniques that could be cultivated to the 8th realm of the immortal world. However, the higher-level martial techniques were strictly controlled by the nobles of the various countries. It was impossible for ordinary people to come into contact with them. That's right. Hong Fugui nodded and said solemnly, after the basic survival problem is guaranteed, people will naturally pursue higher goals. It's only natural for them to hate this kind of oppression. This is the hearts of the people. When I was in the mortal world a few years ago, I heard a saying, the world belongs to those who obtain the hearts of the people. It's still the same principle here. The hierarchical conflict between the nobles and ordinary people, as well as the continued oppression from a long time ago, is my opportunity to unify the 9 countries, and also the source of my ability to unify the 9 countries. Normally speaking, the people of the 9 countries have different cultures, different customs, and different habits. They even have hatred for each other. It's as difficult as ascending to the heavens to unite them. But from another perspective, if all the ordinary people in the 9 countries are facing the same oppression and conflict, they can work together against a common enemy. Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com. 604 Marshall Dow Academy, Education, 2. 604 Marshall Dow Academy, Education, 2. From this perspective, we can unite most of the people in the 9 countries to the greatest extent. With this as the foundation, we can let them become a whole and gradually unify into a country. Your Majesty is far-sighted. Wang Ren sighed. In the past era, the disputes between the countries never stopped. Ordinary people could not care less about such conflicts. But now that life is peaceful, the situation is different. However, I still have another question. The predicament these ordinary people are facing is actually because they don't have any high-level martial techniques to cultivate. Are we going to spread the culture of cultivation and use this to attract the people of the various countries and unite them? I thought like this before as well. Hong Fugue smiled and shook his head. But after consulting teacher, he asked me a question. If we distribute all kinds of high-level martial arts in our name, it will indeed give ordinary people hope to break through the pressure of the upper echelons, but what does this hope have to do with us? Wang Ren was stunned for a moment before he nodded and sighed. That's indeed the case. High-level martial techniques that are distributed for free will instead make people feel that it's too easy to obtain and won't be cherished. Moreover, if we distribute too much, it will make people ignore the source of these martial techniques. If it's all like this, it's impossible to unite them, let alone gather the hearts of the people and establish a new country. Although this is guessing at the dark side of the human heart, it's indeed reasonable. Hong Fugue nodded and said, therefore, cultivation techniques still have to be taught. However, to pay attention to the method, someone has to do it. Your Majesty must already have a candidate, Wang Ren said respectfully. Teacher recommended someone to me. Hong Fugue nodded slightly and smiled. Minister Wang, make a trip to the Qinghe Pavilion in the north of the capital. There's an expert called Kui Feng waiting for you there. He's a junior clan brother of my teacher. His cultivation realm is profound and he's powerful. I'll entrust the heavy responsibility of imparting cultivation techniques and unifying the people of the various countries to this expert. If not for the fact that teacher had said that this clan brother of his doesn't really want to meet me, I would definitely have gone over to welcome him personally. You have to entertain him well and do your job well. Yes. Wang Ren immediately bowed and left. Wang Ren walked towards Qinghe Pavilion, the shock in his heart still lingering. Kui Qing's junior brother. Kui Qing actually had a junior brother. Did such an expert come from a certain clan? What kind of clan could produce such an expert? Could it be that his clan brother also had the same strength as him? No. There was no need to be the same. Even if his strength was just close to his senior clan brother, it would already be extremely unbelievable. A moment later, Wang Ren arrived outside Qinghe Pavilion. This was the most prosperous restaurant in the central capital. The dishes and wine were all top-notch. Usually, Wang Ren would often come over to eat. But this time, he stood at the door, not daring to enter. Is there really such a powerful clan in this world? Wang Ren was still extremely shocked in his heart. He was also a little worried that he would say something wrong after seeing Kui Feng, so he was a little nervous. You're the former human emperor of this world? At this moment, a clear voice suddenly sounded in Wang Ren's mind. Come up. The dishes have been prepared. Yes, yes. Wang Ren hurriedly nodded. At that moment, he could clearly feel how profound Kui Feng's cultivation was. Not only did he not become more nervous, he even relaxed a lot. Although Kui Feng's cultivation could still be considered profound, his cultivation at the 11th True World realm was only one realm higher than him. He had not reached a ridiculous level of strength. Then, Wang Ren arrived at the number 1 private room of Qinghe Pavilion and saw the person who had sent him a voice transmission. It was a young man. He was handsome and had a transcendent aura. Just sitting there gave Wang Ren the feeling that he had seen a peerless genius. The tension that had just subsided in his heart surged up again. This person was too extraordinary. Was this Kui Qing's junior brother? What kind of powerful clan was the Kui clan? They actually had such powerful figures at the same time. I'm Wang Ren, the minister of the Imperial Hall in the central capital. I'm here on the orders of the king to pay my respects to Mr. Kui Feng. Wang Ren bowed very respectfully, afraid that he would neglect this peerless genius. Yes, I already know. Kui Heng nodded slightly and smiled. Minister Wang, please take a seat. His current identity was the new fake self he had set. Kui Feng. He came from a mysterious and powerful clan, the Kui clan. He was Kui Qing's younger brother. He was arrogant and confident and was a peerless genius. He had the cultivation realm of the 12th True World realm and knew all kinds of martial techniques at the peak True World realm. He planned to teach the martial techniques he knew in the central capital to verify his cultivation. This was the fake self-identity he planned to create to assist in the reunification of the 9 countries. The work of educating and gathering the hearts of the people will be remembered by the world. After 3 rounds of wine, Wang Ren explained his plan to Kui Heng. It was to support him in imparting martial arts in all aspects. All requirements could be met. Kui Heng's requests were very simple. He only asked for 2 things. One was to divide a piece of land for him to build a martial academy and teach martial arts. The second was for Wang Ren to do his best to publicize this academy to the entire immortal land in the shortest time possible. Such a request was very reasonable. Wang Ren naturally agreed without any objections. At the same time, he heaved a sigh of relief. With the help of this expert, this martial academy could definitely be established quickly. The citizens of the 9 countries would also unite around the central capital and form an opposition to the old nobles. The realization of His Majesty's unification plan was just around the corner. Mr. Kui's arrival to preach has really resolved our urgent need, Wang Ren said gratefully. This is my own cultivation. It's just convenient for me to help you. Kui Heng smiled and said, if not for my brother's invitation, I might not have come to your place. If you really want to thank someone, thank him. By the way, don't call me Mr. Kui in the future. With my current cultivation realm and achievements, I can't afford to be called Mr. Kui. Call me Mr. Feng. Yes, Mr. Feng. Wang Ren hurriedly corrected himself, feeling incomparably amazed again. This Kui clan was too powerful. Even experts at the 12th True World realm did not dare to let others use their surname as their honorific name. They only dared to use their first name. How terrifying. After Wang Ren and Kui Feng's discussion, the matter of the Martial Dao Academy was settled. That day, a magnificent palace rose from the ground in the south of the imperial city, shocking the people of the central capital. Especially after seeing the words Martial Dao Academy on the plaque, their imagination ran wild. Could it be that the new human emperor was going to let go of the restrictions of martial arts inheritance and begin to spread his divine techniques? Many people became excited. In the past long years, ordinary people had no possibility of coming into contact with martial techniques at all. Not to mention seeing the mysteries of the true world realm, they could not even surpass the 8th immortal world realm. Although the war had stopped and the various countries were stable, the nobles of the past still existed. They grasped martial arts, divine techniques, cultivation resources, and even land that could be connected to the outside world. Ordinary people were still ants in front of the nobles. If the martial path really began to spread, ordinary people would have a chance to turn the tables. As for the old nobles, their expressions were ugly. Martial Dao Academy? What was the human emperor trying to do? Was he really going to impart his martial arts techniques to those fellows with inferior bloodlines? Were they worthy of learning high-level martial arts? At the same time, the news of a martial academy rising from the ground in the central capital city quickly spread to the overlords of the 7 kingdoms, causing many nobles to be furious. However, no one dared to stand up and say anything. Behind the human emperor stood Kui Qing, who had the ability to destroy the world. Hence, the next day, a piece of news spread throughout the 9 countries. A peerless expert called Kui Feng came to the immortal land and cooperated with the central capital's imperial city to build a martial academy and teach them high-level martial techniques that pointed to the peak of the 12 true world realms. As long as one had not reached the 9th immortal world realm, they could register in the central capital. After passing the assessment, they could enter the school immediately. As soon as the news was out, the world was in an uproar. Thank you for reading on my box novel. 605 Beginning, 9 Nether Divine Lord. 605 Beginning, 9 Nether Divine Lord. The establishment of the Martial Dao Academy was not a good thing for the nobles of the 9 countries of the immortal land. These so-called nobles might not be high-ranking rulers. As their legacies had been passed down for too long, and more descendants had reproduced, with most of them having ordinary aptitudes, there were many nobles with ordinary statuses and power in many places. These people usually occupied the positions of some minor officials. They could not be said to have any power, but in the end, they were nobles who could cultivate high-level martial arts. They still felt very superior to ordinary people. Therefore, after the central capital imperial city established the Martial Dao Academy and wanted to spread the cultivation of high-level martial arts to the world, the first to jump was not those with high statuses. On the other hand, the nobles who were minor officials could not sit still anymore. However, no one dared to openly express their objections. No one went to ask the higher-ups for help. After all, from the fact that this news was not restricted and could be spread at will, it could be seen that even the higher-ups did not dare to criticize the matters of the Martial Dao Academy. One had to know that the peerless expert who established the Martial Dao Academy was surnamed Kui. Legend has it that Kui Feng was Kui Qing's junior clan brother who had almost destroyed the entire immortal land. Moreover, he himself had the cultivation of the 12th true world realm and had reached the peak of the true world realms. Who would dare to criticize him? Unless they were tired of living. However, these people did not have the guts to criticize the Martial Dao Academy, but they had the guts to find excuses to torture the ordinary people. They were very bold. For a moment, because of various reasons, the number of ordinary people arrested and imprisoned by the low-ranking officials increased rapidly. Moreover, they all had real evidence, laws, and witnesses to back it up. There were no problems. The minor nobles were busy finding trouble with ordinary people to vent their emotions. The nobles gradually came back to their senses and felt that this matter might not be so simple. In the emperor's palace in the capital of the Wu Kingdom. At this moment, the emperor of the Wu Kingdom, Fu Cheng, was discussing the matter of the Martial Dao Academy with his trusted aides. He looked to be a middle-aged man in his 50s with a worried expression. Around him, Zhao Kang, Feng Taiying, and Zhu Mingyi were all important ministers of the Wu Kingdom. At the same time, they all had cultivation at the 8th true world realm and were true immortals. Usually, Fu Cheng rarely summoned the 3 of them at the same time. Now that these 3 people had gathered here at the same time, it could be seen that the matter of the Martial Dao Academy was already very serious in his heart. What do you think about the Martial Dao Academy in the central capital city? Fu Cheng went straight to the point and asked the 3 of them without keeping them in suspense. I think this is our tribulation. I think so too. Zhao Kang nodded and said in a low voice, as soon as the Martial Dao Academy opens, the leaders of the 9 countries will lean towards the central capital's imperial city. As time passes, there will be no more people in our country. That's right, this is a very serious matter, Feng Taiying said solemnly. The number of people under our rule determines the depth of the land's connection with the outer realm. If the number of people is greatly reduced, I'm afraid we won't be able to cultivate in the future. The most helpless thing is that we can't do anything at all. Zhu Mingyi sighed and said, not to mention that the founder of the Martial Dao Academy is an expert at the 12th true world realm, there's also Kui Qing standing behind him. We can't afford to provoke him. Kui Qing. After this name was mentioned, the entire palace fell silent. Everyone lowered their heads, feeling deeply helpless. Kui Qing's extremely terrifying power was still vivid in their minds. Even if they gathered the power of the entire Wu Kingdom, they probably could not compare to a strand of Kui Qing's hair. Resistance. That was just courting death. This is Emperor Hongwu's open scheme. Fu Cheng shook his head gently and sighed. If this continues, it will be a small matter if the number of people in the country decreases, making it difficult for us to cultivate. The true problem is 1,000,000 years later, or tens of millions of years later. When this group of people who went to the Martial Dao Academy to practice martial arts grow up and true immortals or even paramount true immortals start sprouting all over the place. At that time, will they let us go? Will they still let us manage them? Will they still listen to our orders and build a country for us? I'm afraid not. Your Excellency is right. Zhao Kang said with hatred, if the ordinary people have a channel to cultivate high-level martial arts, we will definitely be the ones to suffer in the end. What exactly does Kui Qing want to do? If he wants to deal with us, he can easily kill us with his strength. Why go through so much trouble? I think this matter shouldn't have much to do with Kui Qing. Feng Taiying shook her head gently and said, after capturing the Lord of the Immortals and crippling the human emperor, Kui Qing hasn't appeared again. Kui Qing's cultivation level is too high. He should have only come to us for Hongwu. Now that Hongwu has settled down, he has most likely left our humble world. If Kui Qing is still in the central capital, he can solve all the problems himself. There's no need to let Kui Feng come over to suppress the situation. This also means that the construction of the Martial Dao Academy and the spread of martial arts were most likely Emperor Hongwu's own initiative. Kui Feng was only sent over to help. In other words, as long as we can convince Emperor Hongwu or reach some agreement with him, we should be able to eliminate this calamity. That makes sense. Zhu Mingyi's eyes lit up when he heard that. He smiled and said, Emperor Hongwu must have an unknown goal in wanting to rope in these lowly commoners. As long as we can find out his true goal, we can negotiate a cooperation with him from this point. In any case, it's fine as long as we can help him achieve his goal. I'm afraid it's very difficult. Fu Cheng shook his head and said in a low voice, Emperor Hongwu is not an ordinary person, and neither is Kui Qing. Since his doing this now, he must have thought about it carefully and definitely obtained Kui Qing's approval. Although I'm also very puzzled about the use of him roping in these commoners, since he has made such a decision, it's not something we can easily change. Your Excellency, we have to try, Zhu Mingyi said in a low voice. That's right. Are we going to sit back and wait for death? Feng Taiying also persuaded. Your Excellency, we should give it a try, Zhao Kang said extremely sincerely. No matter what Emperor Hongwu's goal is, it's only the beginning. We might still have a chance to change it. Fu Cheng frowned and sighed. What if Emperor Hongwu's true goal is to let those commoners replace us? Then there will be no room for negotiation. That's impossible. Zhao Kang shook his head repeatedly and said, what benefits will this bring to Emperor Hongwu? Those lowly commoners don't have any inheritances or secrets. Emperor Hongwu has no reason to help them replace us. Your Excellency should be overthinking. Zhu Mingyi smiled and shook his head. Emperor Hongwu also cultivated all the way to the true world realm. He doesn't belong to the ranks of the lowly commoners, so why would he help them? This doesn't make sense. That's true. Feng Taiying nodded and said with a smile, Your Excellency, you're overthinking. Emperor Hongwu does not intend to let those commoners replace us. Moreover, the 9 countries of the world have already submitted to him. Every 10 years, we will report our political achievements to the central capital's imperial city. In the past, there would not be such a thing. From this perspective, Emperor Hongwu's control over this land has already reached the peak. It's unprecedented. Could it be that he still wants to destroy the remaining 9 countries and swallow everything alone? It's impossible for him to do such a thing, Zhao Kang said in a low voice. Small countries like the Chen and Liu kingdoms might be swallowed up, but it's impossible for him to touch the 7 kingdoms like our Wu kingdom. Without us, who will help him manage this huge immortal land? Your Excellency, we should indeed give it a try. Zhu Mingyi persuaded again. At the very least, we have to figure out what Emperor Hongwu wants to do first. Fu Cheng fell silent again when he heard this. In the end, he patted the table gently. All right, go and investigate. Let's figure out Hongwu's goal first. Remember to hide it and not let anyone discover it. Yes, The three of them bowed in unison. After ending his conversation with Zhao Kang, Zhu Mingyi, and Feng Taiying, Fu Cheng arrived at a secret chamber deep in the palace. The ground of this secret chamber was filled with dense and complicated runes. Every rune symbolized an extremely profound nomological Dao rune, as if it was communicating with a hidden place. In the surrounding void, faint blue flames floated, illuminating the dark chamber even more sinisterly. The entire secret chamber was set up as an array formation, or rather, an altar. Fu Cheng slowly walked to the center of the array formation and knelt down extremely sincerely. He clenched his fists and placed them in front of his chest. He lowered his head with a solemn expression. "Greetings, Nine Nether Divine God." He kowtowed to the void, but there was no response. Only the faint blue flames flickered slightly. Fu Cheng waited for a while, but there was still no response. He prostrated on the ground and kowtowed. He said respectfully, "The new human emperor seems to be about to attack us. If the Wu kingdom is destroyed, your whereabouts will be exposed." Whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, a cold wind suddenly appeared in the secret chamber. The faint blue flames began to jump violently, as if they were responding even more intensely. Fu Cheng did not say anything. He kowtowed sincerely and closed his eyes slightly, as if he was listening to a certain voice. A moment later, the cold wind disappeared, and the faint blue flames stopped jumping. The secret chamber became gloomy and quiet again. When everything returned to normal, Fu Cheng finally stood up slowly. The worry on his face had already disappeared, replaced by a confident smile. As long as his power can really descend here, not to mention Hongwu and Kui Feng, even if Kui Qing comes personally, he won't be a threat. Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com. 606 Samsara Myriad Worlds Gate, the completely unfamiliar power. 606 Samsara Myriad Worlds Gate, the completely unfamiliar power. After the Martial Dao Academy was established, countless ordinary people immediately came to register. The first to arrive were the people who lived in the central capital. However, most of them came with the attitude of just giving it a try. Most people did not believe that there would be such a good thing. After all, the ordinary people of this world had no qualifications to come into contact with high-level martial arts in the past. Now, there was actually someone who wanted to teach him high-level martial arts that pointed to the 12th true world realm for free. Such a thing was really unbelievable. Of course, even if they did not believe it, they still had to come over and give it a try. What if it was real? The Martial Dao Academy was built on the edge of the capital. 100 years ago, ordinary people did not even have the qualifications to approach this place. Although the restrictions had been lifted in the past 100 years, most people still did not dare to come over. Now that the Martial Dao Academy had been established to recruit disciples for the entire immortal land, it gave many people a legitimate reason to approach this place and admire the majesty of the imperial city. Duan Rongqing and his best friend, Mo Kong, arrived at the entrance of the Martial Dao Academy early in the morning. However, the two of them were focused on watching from the outer city wall of the capital and did not pay much attention to the Martial Dao Academy. This was because they did not believe in the advertisement of the Martial Dao Academy. Of course, it was not that they believed that the Martial Dao Academy was lying, or that they would not teach them martial techniques that could point to the 12th true world realm. Instead, they did not think that they could pass the assessment. The conditions for the Martial Dao Academy to recruit disciples were very clear. One had to pass an assessment to enter and learn the martial techniques. What qualifications did random people like them, who could not even come into contact with ordinary martial arts, have to pass the assessment? Ordinary people of the 9 countries could not come into contact with high-level martial techniques. At most, they could only stagnate at the 8th immortal world realm. And that was only for those who had family inheritances or special teachings. Duan Rongqing and Mo Kong were different. They had lost their parents since they were young, and they did not have a family. They could not even come into contact with ordinary martial arts. To this day, they only had the cultivation that they naturally reached after living to adulthood. That is, the limitless golden immortal realm at the 5th immortal world realm. In the immortal land, a cultivation realm of this level was only equivalent to a commoner. Therefore, although the two of them only met on the way to the central capital imperial city, they felt like old friends at first sight and quickly became good friends. Duan Rongqing had long resigned himself to his fate. He never thought that there was any hope for his future. This time, they came to the Martial Dao Academy just to join in the fun and take the opportunity to admire the majesty of the imperial city. At the same time, they wanted to see the legendary Mr. Feng to satisfy their curiosity. However, they did not expect so many people to come. At this moment, there was still an hour before the Martial Dao Academy opened for the assessment, but the door was already flooded with people. People were standing shoulder to shoulder, and it seemed as though there was a sea of humans. Duan Rongqing and Mo Kong looked like teenagers. They blended into the crowd and were completely inconspicuous. "Hey, why do you think Mr. Feng did this?" Duan Rongqing poked Mo Kong gently with his finger and said in a low voice, "Do we have any value for him to recruit us? The actions of an expert must have a deeper meaning." Mo Kong shook his head and said, "How can ordinary people like us understand?" There were many people who had similar thoughts as the two of them, and they were also discussing fervently. In the past long years, ordinary people had long been used to being ordinary. They basically thought that their lives had no worth other than to serve those high and mighty nobles. At this moment, in the Martial Dao Academy, Kui Heng's gaze passed through the wall and landed on the people outside. He could not help but feel a little emotional. In terms of martial cultivation realm, there were limitless golden immortals, sages, creators, Dao lords, and even lords of the heavens. If these people were released into the starry skies of the universe outside, they would be enough to shake the myriad worlds. Even the weakest limitless golden immortal could dominate a living star. But in this world, they could only live as commoners. They had no ambition, nor did they have the demeanor of an expert. They even thought that they were very lowly and had no value. This is related to the different environment we're in. There are too many high-level experts in the immortal land. People of the same realm can dominate an area outside, but it's normal for them to be ordinary people here. However, martial cultivation requires a brave and firm heart with the will to reach one's goals. Without this heart and will, no matter how strong one's aptitude is, it's difficult to achieve much. Kui Heng thought to himself, therefore, the assessment of the Martial Dao Academy is to see if they can stimulate the anger in their hearts and test if they have a clear martial arts goal. Thinking of this, he casually waved his hand and opened up countless small worlds out of thin air. He created countless living beings and constructed various world backgrounds. At the same time, a huge door of light appeared in the air. It was more than 30 feet tall, and the light inside formed a vortex, as if it led to an unknown world. Then, this door of light slowly descended. As long as the towering doors of the Martial Dao Academy opened, the first thing the applicants would see would be this door of light. This door of light was connected to the worlds Kui Heng had created. After entering, one would be sent to a world that was suitable for them and they would experience all kinds of events. These people who could be to have spent their entire lives as true ordinary commoners would be placed in situations where they had to be a hero who resisted the invasion of outsiders, or a family head who led his family to rise. There were all kinds of scenarios. After experiencing this, everyone's temperament would be reborn and even sublimate to the extreme. Of course, there had to be examples for this assessment method. Mo Kong was one of the role models Kui Heng had chosen. The reason for choosing him was very simple. That was because this was also Kui Heng's fake identity. Thank you for reading on my box novel. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.